No, I went, no.
Yep.
Okay.
Folks, we're going to give us another 5 minutes. I guess there's another 15 or 20 people outside signing in. So if you need to go to the restroom or something, please do so.
So Eric, Kyrene's
Well, you do. I don't know how you do this. I mean, you should do this. No, it is. Seriously. How you transcribe that in a meaningful way.
This is our ninth, Eric. Eric. It's the ninth one, yeah. It's the ninth one.
No, this is the 15th.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah. Where have I been?
Oh, but I said lunch. She said, don't forget, this is the 15th meeting was yesterday. So I said,
We won't do anything in the future that will compromise the ability of the staff to perform at this level. Oh, where's Parker?
oh, did you know he went to,
Oh, okay.
he had a wedding on Saturday. So he flew back to Red Eye on Friday. And then,
He's allowed to. Yeah. You say he's allowed to.
well, for him, he was supposed to get in. It's Red Eye playing for like 3 hours. He was supposed to leave at midnight. He was like 3:30.
Ooh.
He basically just drove directly to the wedding from the airport. At least it wasn't his wedding.
Ouch. Yes, ma'am.
So, Mayor Giles will do the opening, comments, and then President Martin Javier will stop over for Maricopa.
That wait until Doug can process everything you're saying.
No, hang on. So
Yeah.
So right at the opening, so Supervisor Steve, Diane, Maricopa County Supervisor Steve and Diane, pledge of allegiance. And I will.
You got it. So do I let you go before I call the order? Okay, and then
Before we call it to order.
Well, no, I think you have to, is it before you call to order? Do you do the pledge first before call to order?
can I welcome everybody first? Okay.
And then the interpreter, Spanish interpreter is inside here, so she'll come and then the ASL interpreter is on WebEx too.
Yes.
So you'll pause and look, even though we can't see, and you'll look to the staff to tell you after they have introduced those people.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
Switch to the public comment section. After Lori gives her
Spiel.
guidelines.
Got it.
Michelle was. No, you were doing it. No, you're doing, okay, he's got public comments. This is Lori. And
No, I-
then, so then you got this, you've got this, and this is gonna be
Yes.
Mayor. Okay, I'll just let you go.
Okay, all right.
And you'll handle the public comments stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna say the public's gonna read their names in 3 minutes. It's you, or you want me to do that?
No, I can introduce the
Mayor.
mayor if you want me to, or you can.
No, you can.
Okay, all right, and then President Mark Javier, and then Supervisor Stephen Gutierrez.
Okay, and that's got you some part.
Yeah.
And Jeremy.
And you got those three.
Jeremy.
And then I could go into public, I can say 3 minute minimum.
No.
Oh, on the rules, okay. Good afternoon. If we could everybody take their seat, we'll get started.
Good evening, Commissioner York, Chair Newberg, and Vice Chair Watchman, and those that are listening in the audience here, and also listening on WebEx. My name is Michelle Crank, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Independent Redistricting Commission. And this evening, I have asked Supervisor Stephen Gallegos if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, guests. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is our 15th listening tour meeting as we've traveled the state. We've learned a ton about communities of interest from all over the state. I hope you weathered our initial visit, which was the fire alarm. We've had a power outage, and so the world keeps trying to throw some curveballs, but we're eager to listen to you. So with that, I'd like to call our meeting to order. We have an interpreters here in place, and I'd like to introduce the Spanish-speaking interpreter to come introduce herself.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosa Moreno Gilbert. I am an interpreter with the Foreign Language Services, and I'm here to help the way I can.
Thank you. I'd also like to introduce our sign language interpreter.
Hello, my name
She's
is
on.
Tiana. My team tonight is Tiffany Jones. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'd also like to remind you that the COVID protocol is in place for public spaces in Mesa. So if you haven't been vaccinated, we request that you wear a mask during a public meeting. And so please try to follow those guidelines. So you can also follow these meetings along online. We do these in WebEx. So if you don't feel comfortable being here, we can ask you to do that as well. Please note that the public comments, if you would like to make a public comment, please, hopefully you filled out a public comment card when you signed in, and we're looking forward to your remarks. If you haven't done so, you can also go online and fill out a community of interest survey. If you've done that and you've printed that out, you can present those at the time of public comments, or hopefully we can find them online and you've left that there and our mapping consultant can post those as you discuss them with us. As you know, we've introduced our American Sign Language interpreter. She's joining us virtually. We have interpreters and headsets available for those in attendance. We also have a transcriptionist who will also be transcribing every meeting. And so please speak slowly when you make your public comments and clearly so that you have a clear record of your input. As you can see at the podium, there's 2 microphones. One on the right is for the room. The one on the left is for the WebEx communication that we have going to the public. And at this time, I'd like to ask the commissioners and the chairperson to introduce themselves. I'll start with the chairperson.
Hello there. My name is Erica Newberg. I'm the chairwoman of the IRC. I live in Chandler, Arizona, not too far, but I'm a 41-year resident of Arizona, so I call our entire state our home. And I would like to say that I believe I'm the newcomer to Arizona amongst the commissioners at 41 years. So we have a collective amount of experience and deep commitment to our state. This is heavy. Oh, yeah, wow.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Derek Watchman, and I am the Democratic appointee to the commission from Apache County. And so it's my pleasure to be here. We've had 2 weeks of wonderful input, and I was born in Flagstaff, Arizona, and so, and I am actually from the Navajo Reservation, so it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to all the wonderful comments, and I know that you'll get introduced later, but I want to say hello to our fellow tribal leaders, so thank you for being here, and I look forward to your input. And of course, the mayor and Supervisor Gallegos. So thank you for being here.
Good evening again. My name is Doug York. I'm the Republican representative for Maricopa County, and I'm excited to be your commissioner. I look forward to a robust discussion. So with that, I'll turn over the introductions to our 2 commissioners that you can see online. So I'll start with Commissioner Lerner.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Kyrene Lerner. I am a Democratic representative from Maricopa County, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm David Meal. I'm a Republican appointee from Pima County, and I am in excess of 50 years in Arizona. So thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, that's the completion of agenda item number 1. Now we move to agenda item number 2, which is where our legal team will explain the IRC and its guidelines on how we operate.
Good evening. Everybody hear me okay? Yes, great. All right, I'll speak into the mic. How about now? Better? All right. My name is Sean Summers. I'm from the firm Ballard Spahr. I'm one of the commission's attorneys. I'm joined tonight by my colleague Eric Spencer from the firm Snell and Wilmer, who is another one of the commission's counsel. I'm going to talk briefly tonight about what the commission is, what its work is going to look like, what we're here tonight to talk about, and also what the timeline is going to be for the next 6 months or so of the commission's work. So first, let's begin with the U.S. Constitution. As you may remember from civics class in middle school or high school, the Constitution requires the government to conduct a census of the whole country every 10 years. And that the results of that census are used to reapportion state representation in the U.S. House of Representatives. But while the apportionment is done by the federal government, the actual drawing of the district lines for both the federal representation and in each state legislature is left to the states themselves. From statehood in 1912 until the year 2000, Arizona did what just about every other state did at the time and what most states still do today, and they had the state legislature draw the districts. That changed in the year 2000 when the voters of Arizona passed Proposition 106. Prop 106 amended the Arizona Constitution to establish an independent redistricting commission that would be convened every 10 years to redraw both the congressional and the state legislative maps. The Arizona Constitution requires that this commission consist of 5 members, no more than 2 from any one political party, and of those 4 partisan members who elected independent chair, no more than 2 can be from the same county. The Arizona Constitution and the commissioners, we actually have all 5 commissioners tonight, and they've already introduced themselves to you. The Constitution sets out 6 goals for how the commission is supposed to redraw both the legislative and the congressional districts. These are the criteria that the commission will be taking into account as they try to redraw the maps. First, districts must comply with both the U.S. Constitution and the Federal Voting Rights Act. Second, districts should, both congressional and legislative districts should, to the extent practicable, have equal population. For congressional districts, federal law requires that the population be pretty close to exactly equal, plus or minus 1 person. There's a little more wiggle room in the legislative districts, but the Constitution requires that they should have equal population to the extent practicable. Third, districts should be compact and contiguous to the extent practicable. Fourth, districts should respect communities of interest to the extent practicable. And that, to a large part, is what we're here to talk about tonight, to get input from you, members of the public, about what your communities of interest are and where they are on the map. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Fifth, to the extent practicable, district lines should follow visible geographic features, city, town, and county boundaries, and undivided census tracts. And then finally, to the extent practicable, competitive districts should be favored, where to do so would create no significant detriment to the other 5 goals. These are the 6 goals that the commissioners will be taking into account in redrawing the maps. So, what is the rest of this process going to look like? You can see in July and August, we're now at the very end. This is the last meeting on the Commission's first listening tour, primarily oriented around feedback on communities of interest. In just a few days, later this week on Thursday, the Census Bureau is going to release population data that will allow the Commission to start its work. We can't redraw the lines until we get the new census data, and that hasn't happened yet, but it will happen, we're told, on Thursday. That's later than usual. Typically, that information would already be released, but the census was delayed this year, as you may remember, because of COVID. But that data will be released this week. Then, in September, the commissioners will adopt a grid map. The purpose of the grid map, which only takes into account 2 of the 6 criteria, compactness and equal population, the purpose of the grid map is to wipe away the districts that are there before. So the commissioners are required to start with a clean slate every 10 years. So you can't just tweak the district lines that are already there. So the grid map starts from scratch, wipes away the districts that were there before. And then, in the September to October period, the commissioners will adjust the grid map, probably adjust it a lot, but they'll adjust the grid map to create draft maps that will take into account all 6 criteria. After the draft map has been officially adopted, there's a minimum 30-day public comment period that'll take place in October through November. During that period, the commissioners will be responding to public comment, adjusting the draft map, and then finally the plan is to adopt a final congressional and final legislative map sometime in late December. So, there are many ways for you as members of the public to get involved in this process, but there are 3 that I want to talk about right now. First, commission meetings are all open to the public and they're live streamed online. You can watch our meetings and provide public comment at irc.az.gov/public-meetings. Second, initial input on communities of interest. That is what we're here tonight largely to talk about. And by being here tonight, you are giving us initial input on communities of interest, but we also have some online tools that will enable you to do that we'll talk about in just a moment. And then third, comments on maps, both before, during, and after the draft maps are released. Once we have the data from the census and it's loaded into the system, our mapping consultants are working to get a public redistricting tool online that will allow you to submit draft maps. And you'll also be able to comment on maps that the Commission is considering and draft maps throughout the process. And then finally, once an official draft map has been adopted, you'll be able to comment on that map before it becomes the final map. So with that, I will pass it over to Mark from Timmins, our mapping consultant, and he'll talk a little bit more about the informational and empowerment tools that we have available for you. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
We're good.
Perfect. My name is Mark Flahan. I'm from Timmins Group, the mapping consultants for the IRC. With me, next to me is Ivy Beller-Sikansky. She's our demographer from NDC. Today I want to talk to you about 3 of the tools that we've created to empower you, the residents, to be able to interact with the commission. The first tool is a social economic report. It's an interactive website that's available 24/7 online. You can get to that by the IRC's website with 14 different
Sorry about that. So a community of interest, again, is a connection of either social issues, shared demographic characteristics, similar impacts from a legislative or congressional district, or any other connection that leads people within a given area to believe they would benefit from being kept together, united in one legislative and/or congressional district. As you think about your community, think about the various demographic points and the tools that Mark has already mentioned. In the survey for communities of interest, we ask that you think about you and your neighbors. Do you have similar jobs? Do you rely on similar public services? Belong to the same neighborhood associations? Are you impacted by some regional environmental concern? Is your community defined by regional land use issues, transit concerns, languages spoken, community celebrations or traditions, or other similar issues or characteristics? Any of these characteristics could define a community of interest. Next slide. Now it is your turn. As they travel the state on this listening tour, the commissioners want to hear from you. What do you want the commissioners to consider as they draft and ultimately adopt their maps? How do you define your community of interest? Again, using the various tools that Mark has described, along with your testimony today, we want to hear two things. First, what brings your community of interest together? And secondly, what are the geographic boundaries of your community? Remember, the commissioners can incorporate your community into their maps only if you let us know where your community is on the map. Thank you for being here today. Now I will turn this back over to commission staff, who will begin to take your comments.
Thank you, Ivy. That ends agenda item number 2. Now we'll move to agenda item number 3, and Lori will have a few comments.
Thank you. Just so you know, we are bringing in more chairs and we are working on the air. So hopefully it'll get cooler here pretty quickly, okay? So citizens may only speak when recognized by the chair or the presiding officer of the meeting if the chair is absent or has otherwise delegated hearing administration authority. In compliance with Arizona's open meeting law, speakers should confine their statements to the issue on the posted agenda, which is before the commission. Speakers are also requested to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes. Additionally, speakers are required to follow proper decorum. Speakers must use appropriate language. Foul and/or abusive language will not be tolerated. Any speaker failing to follow proper decorum or any other guidelines may be asked to leave. Any breach of the peace or disruption of a commission public hearing may be the cause of report to law enforcement, arrest, and prosecution. If someone has expressed the same sentiment as you, you do not need to speak in order to have your comment recorded. As long as you have filled out the survey, your input will be received and considered by the commission. Everyone is welcome to speak, however, should you choose to do so. Opposing viewpoints may be expressed by the citizens present. As a courtesy, citizens are reminded to address their comments to the chair and to the commission, and not to the audience present. Please show respect for all speakers and avoid personal comments. Remember, the commission needs to hear all sides in order to make an informed decision. And now I will send it back to Commissioner York to start public comment.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Pro Tem Chair York. First of all, I would like to bring up Mayor Giles from the City of Mesa to open up the public comment section, sir.
Thank you very much. I have 2 agenda items today. The first is to welcome the Independent Redistricting Commission and the folks that are here to participate in democracy today. This really is a beautiful sight. Democracy, I think, regardless of our political stripes, is something that we all love. And so I just, on behalf of our community, I just want to say thank you so much for those on the IRC that are going through this thankless task. Can you imagine this is their 15th of one of these meetings and their job is really just kind of starting? So you really do deserve our thanks and our gratitude for taking this on. And then I also want to thank, again, the folks that are here to participate. I'm going to assume most of you live in the community of Mesa because this is a regional meeting. Not all of you do, and that's okay. You don't have to live in Mesa. But so that's a community, right? But within the community of Mesa are other communities. And I think that's the point of what we're here to discuss today. I took advantage of our fire alarm break a moment ago to chat with some of the commissioners, and I shared with them the fact that I think we're all giving our Arizona pedigrees here. I was born on Main Street in Mesa, Arizona, 61 years ago at the Southside Hospital, about a quarter mile from here. I grew up across the street on University, across the street from the Escobedo Washington Park neighborhood. Now, for those who haven't lived in Mesa for forever, you might not know that that is a community within our community. Back before Mesa was an integrated community, that was the only place that people of color were allowed to live in the city of Mesa. And the idea that someone would be ignorant to the history of that part of our community and come in and draw political lines is really troublesome. So there are other communities of interest just here in our downtown area. The downtown Mesa has undergone quite a reinvigoration of recent years. And that the folks that live in this part of West Mesa really do have a lot in common. And it would make no political sense for someone who was not knowledgeable of the details of our community to come in and somehow sever those people from one another. So these are very critically important issues. So thank you for being here and being a part of this process. This is how we're going to decide our legislative and congressional boundaries. Now, there is a process pretty much identical to this one that's going on within the City of Mesa government as well. Because as you might know, in the City of Mesa, we break our city government into 6 districts. And we're under the same mandate to redraw those lines. So thank you for participating tonight. Please also participate in the City of Mesa redistricting process, because we want to hear what you have to say. We want to make sure that, again, we protect the communities of interest that are within our community. So I know there's a lot going on tonight. I'll stop talking so we can get down to business. But again, on behalf of our community, on behalf of all of the citizens of our community, thank you for participating in democracy. We're all better for it. And I just want to, again, thank you for making Mesa, putting Mesa on your road trip list. We are very much welcome and very much appreciated here.
Thank you, Mayor Gauss.
The next speaker that I would like to bring up is the president of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, President Martin Javier.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, members of the commission. As is mentioned, my name is Martin Javier. I'm the current president of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community. I'd also like to recognize the vice president of our community, Vice President Ricardo Leonard, who has joined me this evening. Also members of our legislative staff that are here with me also. Our community has a long history in the Phoenix metro area and are a vital partner here in the East Valley. We have participated in this process since the commission was created in 2000. First, I want to thank you for the work that you are doing to hear from the public as you begin to draw the state's legislative and congressional districts. I know that it will be a daunting effort, but I am hopeful you will consider the recommendations of our community. Tonight, I would like to share with you 5 recommendations. First recommendation, I would ask the commission to keep our entire community in a single legislative and congressional district. As a unique community of interest, a tribal community that is located in only one census tract, I believe this should not be a problem for the commission to consider. Recommendation number 2, referring back to my comment of the community's active participation in the East Valley, I asked the commission to place the community in an urban, legislative, and congressional district, and not in any large rural district. Recommendation number 3, our community and the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation share a common border, and we support being located in the same congressional district. Recommendation number 4, the community also shares a common border with the city of Scottsdale, where we have similar transportation, public safety, solid waste issues, to name a few. And as such, we support being located in the same congressional district. Recommendation number 5, similar to the previous recommendation, We also share a common border with the city of Tempe and the city of Mesa. Again, there exists a number of mutually beneficial activities that we have with each of these cities. One example is a large number of our community member youth attend school in the city of Mesa, and we work closely with the Mesa Public School District on education matters. As a result, we support being located in the same legislative district, such as the current legislative district we are in, number 26. Members of the Commission, I believe all of the recommendations meet the criteria you must consider in this process. In closing, we look forward to working with you in this process and welcome the Commission to host a hearing in Salt River in the next go-round of hearings. Following my comments, we will be submitting a written statement for the record. Thank you for your time this evening.
Before we go to the next speakers, I'm going to be naming 4 speakers at a time. And if speakers would please line up against this wall over here and be prepared to speak. We do have 69 speakers tonight, so we do have to approach this fairly quickly. So the next speaker I would like to bring up is Supervisor, and then after the Supervisor, Pete Rios. After Pete Rios, Canginos, and sorry if I mispronounce your name. Please make sure you state your name when you come up to the microphone. Suzanne Mead, Andrea Villare. Supervisor.
Thank you. Real quickly, Commissioners, Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Steve Gardel. I am a Maricopa County Supervisor representing District 5, which is the southwest portion of Maricopa County. My supervisor district is considered, in the world of redistricting, a minority-majority supervisor district. Several years ago, a group of Latino citizens came together and worked in the 2020 or 2000 redistricting and 2010, and we come back here now in 2021 asking and offering to work with the Commission when it comes to minority majority districts. One of the things that we really hold true in our hearts is the importance of voters being able to elect candidates of their choice. In my supervisor district, there are 6 legislative districts that are considered minority majority districts that were drawn in the 2020 or 2010, I'm sorry, I get confused now, 2010 redistricting. We look forward to not only protecting those districts, but also looking to expand the number of minority majority districts. Earlier today, a letter was delivered to the offices. Each one of you were given a letter. I'm not too sure if you received it just earlier today, but if you haven't, it is a letter requesting that additional hearings be held in minority majority districts or minority majority communities in Phoenix, Arizona. One is particular Maryvale, which is a large Latino district, which I was born and raised in. We have also South Phoenix, which is a large African American and Latino community as well. And then the new community, not new, but a growing community of Levine, another area where there's a large African American and Latino population. We ask that we hold hearings in those particular communities, allow citizens from these large areas to be able to come and address the Commission on communities of interest. The Latino Coalition will be presenting illustrations of communities of commonality when it comes to these particular areas. We'll also be presenting a map of proposed lines to the Commission as well. But I know this is a long process. You have a lot of work ahead of you and a lot of hard decisions, but we do look forward to working with every one of you in whatever we can do to help guide the process and identifying our communities of interest. We're willing to sit down and chat. So thank you so much for allowing me to have an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Supervisor.
As the next speaker makes his way up here, we are going to change to 2 minutes instead of 3 minutes, so everybody can have a chance to speak. So 2 minutes. Pro Tem Chair.
Thank you. That means I got to speak fast. Again, thank you for your service. We sincerely appreciate it. I did address this group briefly in Florence, Arizona. I'm Pete Rios, LD8, Legislative CD1 Congressional. And then I spoke to you about keeping LD8. Used to be an influence minority majority district. It's not any longer. So I have proposed maybe asking the San Carlos Indian tribe to come into LD8. And on the southern end, we have a retirement community known as Saddlebrook Ranch that has nothing in common with the eastern end of Pinal County, which is primarily mining communities. So maybe they could go to LD11. But at the end of the day, what we're looking for is to ensure that minority districts elect a candidate of their choice. It may not be a Latino, an African American, or a Native American. It could be a white person. But at the end of the day, it's a person they elected, a candidate of their choice. In addition to that, I wanted to ask the commission to consider additional public hearings. There are no hearings that were held in Maricopa County, South Phoenix, at the west end. You had one in Glendale, but I'm talking about Maryvale area. So I think we need additional public hearings, and also in the Tucson area. And one of the other things that I wanted to say, since I only got 2 minutes, is to remember that when we set up minority, majority district, it doesn't have to be one man, one vote to the person like congressional districts do. There's a standard deviation there where you can fluctuate from 8 to 10% to try to ensure that we don't pack minorities in minority districts and leave some minorities available where we could have some other competitive districts as well. And with that, again, I thank you for your time.
Again, just as the next speaker makes his way up here, I want to remind everybody that you can go online and also submit your public comments as well, and also your community of interest survey. Those surveys are due by August 10th, and you will need to get them to us as soon as possible. Ken.
Hello, my name is Ken Kenagus. I want to thank the commission for this opportunity to speak about my community. Haven't done this before, but I define the boundaries of my community as I-17 on the east, 35th Avenue on the west, Glendale Road on the north, and Bethany Home Road on the south. I think I got those right. But this is the community that it's, largely residential in there with some commercial interests around the outside at the major intersections. But there are many communities that I find are very similar to that community that are adjacent to it and maybe should be considered as a larger community of interest. So I'm a relatively recent Arizonan. I've been here in that community for 5 years. And what I notice about our community, the languages in the community are predominantly English and Spanish, but not exclusively by any means. Many, many languages are spoken. We have people from all points on the globe in that community. And I think that common experience, even among the longtime residents, which are largely Anglo, is this common experience of being immigrants, we are all immigrants, has shaped the values of that community in a way that should not be disrupted. I learned more about this when I participated in a little exercise in getting speed bumps in and spoke, boy. Anyway, people really came together because the common value was to protect the children and the most vulnerable people in that community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Suzanne Mead. I live on the Cave Creek side of Carefree,
in LD1 at the other end of Maricopa. This is, sorry to say, not my community, but that is a beautiful desert foothills of North Valley. I have lived there for over 10 years and have developed a wonderful community of friends from all over the valley, especially in northern Maricopa County. My world of healthcare, shopping, dining, entertainment extends from Carefree southwards along Scottsdale, Tatum, Cave Creek Road corridors, and often all the way down to Shea and over to 17 as a photographer. I also enjoy sightseeing in the parks surrounding Cave Creek, Carefree, Scottsdale, and northern Phoenix. The common interests I share with my neighbors are the simple pleasures of enjoying the natural landscape and dining in family-owned restaurants. Our concerns revolve around sustainable resources, especially water and suburban sprawl. We also share a concern for wildfires at this time of drought. Living in the area where the population looks like me, I look forward to extending our district south and slightly west to gain more diversity in age and ethnicity. Having lived in New York City and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I have learned the value that cultural diversity can bring to my life. My community of interest does not extend north into Yavapai County or to Prescott, which currently serves as the political center of power in our district. This brings me to the point of describing what is not working for me. I do not feel represented by our lawmakers. Rather than addressing my concerns about the natural environment, COVID, sustainable development, and quality schools, they cater to the most extreme elements of our constituency. The message that I have heard at other meetings is that the IRC should ignore the constitutional mandate for competitive districts. I would encourage that that is not helpful, and that for the foreseeable future, our candidates, it is impossible to find candidates of other parties who will have any possibility of winning. As people who take an interest, as someone who takes a all right. In conclusion, in addition to recommending a district that runs south rather than north from Carefree.
After Andrea, the next four speakers, William Jennings, Brian Steiner, William Enslin, Sandra Fisher,
Good evening, Commission, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Today, I am here to testify on behalf of the Latinx communities of interest that were not represented during this first round of public hearings. There has not been a significant effort to provide outreach to more diverse audiences at these public hearings. Arizona boasts a large Latinx population with communities across the state. These Latinx communities have the right to choose who represents them. The limited outreach to these and other communities of color excludes us from the process and does not allow for significant engagement and advocacy on behalf of all communities of interest, especially those that are often underrepresented. One major example of the importance of protecting communities of color are the currently enacted majority-minority districts in the state. When new lines are drawn, those communities still need to be protected. The right for communities of color to elect representation that will be responsive to their needs is protected in the Voting Rights Act. And the Commission must uphold those protections as they draft the map for the next 10 years of Arizona's electoral representation. That voting strength should not be cracked or diluted. Lack of accessibility at these hearings has also impeded engagement for Latinx communities. These hearings were only announced via media alerts and on the IRC website. There was no sufficient effort in ensuring Spanish language media outlets announced the hearings. A community outreach coordinator has not been hired, and there didn't seem to be attempts to increase public engagement by alerting other community organizations or community outlets to mobilize communities of color and get them to testify at these hearings. All of this being considered, I respectfully request that you extend the deadline for the Community of Interest survey. This survey allows for more of the public to participate even when mobilization and accessibility are an issue. The more opportunities the Commission can provide for public input, the better. Thank you, and have a great night.
Good afternoon. My name is William Jennings. My comments today will deal with the city of Goodyear, in particular the need to place all of Goodyear
same congressional and legislative districts as the other suburban cities located along the I-10 in the West Valley. I and my wife reside in Goodyear at the southern end of Estrella Parkway and Cotton Lane in the Estrella Foothills Master Development. We are both retired professionals. Myself, I was an attorney. My wife was a purchaser for various corporations. When you're looking at West Valley cities, I think it's important to realize they develop differently than East Valley cities. The West Valley cities largely developed oriented toward the I-10 and the I-17. So the city of Goodyear is itself suburban in nature, from Camelback on the north to Estrella Foothills on the south. Between Camelback and Van Buren is a 10-block strip of commercial centered on the I-10. South of Estrella Foothills is largely rural, but the city's 2024 general plan expects the rest of Goodyear to residentially develop in the near future. In fact, several projects in that area have already received city approval, and other projects are in the approval process right now. Those who live in Estrella Foothills, such as myself, drive to the commercialized zone along the I-10 to do our daily shopping, eating out, movies, hiring local contractors. Most residents of other cities along the I-10 also conduct their daily activities in that zone. And those who will come soon to live within driving distance of the I-10 will likewise make use of that narrow zone. The residents of Goodyear and the other cities bordering the I-10 share a single community of interest, namely the shopping, recreational, and entertainment resources located along that freeway. As a result, Goodyear and those other cities should be placed together in the same CD and LD. It makes no sense for Goodyear to be included in the same CD and LD as Yuma and Tucson, hundreds of miles away and separated by hundreds of miles of rural. Those are my comments. Thank you very much for listening.
Hi, I'm Brian Steiner. I'm going to try to go quick here. I come from East Gila Bend, so probably the furthest one away, about an hour and a half to get here. I do landscaping for a living as well as officiate volleyball and coach volleyball in the valley. I grew up in Yuma. When I moved into way east of Gila Bend, I found out I'm still attached to Yuma. That's crazy. You know, it's like that's LD4 is probably one of the craziest districts. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But it's like, I know what Yuma's like. I know what Buckeye's like. I know what my area's like. It's like I probably have nothing to do with either one of those communities. But I know that Buckeye and Yuma have nothing to do with each other, being in both, either in coaching and officiating or in landscaping in that area, versus I have folks and family that are in Yuma. And frankly, there's people in Yuma that just don't match. Marines and older people, that don't go. So anyways, I look at the LD4 and I go through the Constitution on how it reads. It's like, it doesn't fit a grid-like pattern. It's not compact geographically. The county boundaries goes through many counties, you know, same as CD3, many counties. And really it's like the last goal is supposed to be competitiveness. And being a coach, it's like I welcome the competitiveness. But then I actually find that the competitiveness actually hurts us in LD3 or LD4 and CD3. Trying to get a representative to respond to you, even on your own same party, is hard. We have too many people in the one party, and I get that. But for me, it's like, it needs to be where we're being representative by people in our community or like-minded, or not so much focused on the competitiveness, because it's not supposed to be a detriment to the other categories. It's supposed to be the least of the others. And that competitiveness hurts us. So with that, you know, since we still have some more time, if people read their Constitution, their Arizona State Constitution, we wouldn't fight as much. Thank you.
The next speaker is William England, E-N-G-L-E-N.
Thank you, Madam Chair, fellow commissioners. My name is Bill Engler, E-N-G-L-E-R. I live in Anthem. I was very involved in redistricting 10 years ago. At that point, Anthem was in LD6, and I was the Democratic chair at that time. Then our district ran north and south, basically from the Maricopa County line south, with the midpoint being I-17. And after redistricting, and I went to most of the meetings, and I watched the maps being drawn and redrawn, we were not gerrymandered out of our district until the very last map. And they put us in LD1, which is centered on Prescott. It's a rural district, Yavapai County, and just a little sliver of Maricopa County. Myself and the lady that spoke earlier, our community of interest basically runs south from that area. We are not a rural area. We are on the fringes of Valley and the metro area. Back then, even though it's not a competitive district, I don't think you can make it a competitive district based on our population, we had 3 of our representatives at one time, and then at the end, 2 were from Anthem. After redistricting, those representatives didn't run for re-election. They all lost in the Republican primary. Since then, we've been represented strictly by people from Prescott. They may be good people, but they certainly don't represent my interests in the urban area. It's completely different, and I urge you to take a look at that and keep those of us in Anthem, Carefree, and south of the northern border of Maricopa County together with an urban district. Thank you so much.
As Sandra makes her way up here, I would like to let everybody know you need to speak into both microphones. One microphone is for the WebEx that is live broadcast, and the other microphone is for those that are here listening. And make sure that we do follow proper decorum. If we don't follow proper protocol and decorum, then and the guidelines, we will be asked to leave. Thank you.
Just push them together. There we go. Should.
I'll just scoot down a little bit. Maybe that'll help.
Got issues. Widget fell off. You want to give them this base? This works really well.
Okay. Okay, I am Sandra Fisher. I have been a resident of Mesa for 25 years in the community of Marlboro Mesa, which borders the Western Canal, Alma School, Guadalupe, and Extension. And we are a very active community. I request that we really be kept with more Mesa districts because there were about 5 different communities there, and we do a lot with the city of Mesa. But we're just such a small area of that I think we lose something when we're not a part of that. 10 years ago, we became part of the Legislative District 18, which is Chandler, Tempe, and Ahwatukee. Oh, do we have something? Okay, is that better? Okay, okay. Okay, so I request that we be part more of Mesa, and so that we can better participate in all the things that we do with the city of Mesa, as well as even our border cities of Tempe, Chandler, and Gilbert. We are in a very small section that goes south, and like I said, I'm a mile from Tempe and Gilbert. I'm just over the canal from Chandler. We all know that districts are going to have there are going to be some that will have primarily voting one party or another. as fair as you can make it, where it's more purple than red or blue. I really recommend that, because then everybody's heard and people have a better chance of having the right person represent their district. All neighborhoods have quality, and character and different, and Marlboro Mesa is no exception because of the 2 community events that it holds every year, an Easter egg hunt and a Christmas toy drive where we support charities in Mesa. Those kinds of things need to be really looked at when you're looking at the character of the various communities. And again, I trust this system provided you put in fair boundaries and not listen to one party or the other, to really look at what makes a difference for that community. Thank you.
Again, just a reminder, don't touch the microphones, I guess. So the next 5 speakers, Mike, and I do apologize if I mispronounce your name, B-E-R Bartoli, Jennifer Kyrene, Penny, Sharon, Charles, Scheinke, Trudy Miller, Jane Rhodes.
My name is Mike Bertocchi. I'm an Arizona resident for my life. I've lived in my present house for 42 years. So I want to thank all of you, because I'm here for one particular reason. Last redistricting, our district was either gerrymandered or somebody was on drugs. It went from Chandler to Tempe to Mesa, all the way across Phoenix with that little tiny path until you got all the way to the west side. I'm going to say there are areas in my district I've never even stepped in. So what I'd like to see, and this is going to be very difficult because you've got Republicans, Democrats, and most of all, you're going to have Chairman Newberg, you're going to have all the decisions dumped on you, I'm sure. But I'd like to see, like one of the other ladies say, if we get something in between. I've been a cop for 27 years, got right out of the military, became a cop, started forensic business. So I've been in the same area. I worked out of my house. I've worked out of offices. Everything I like about an area, such as what I'm thinking, south of the 60, east of 101. And the reason I first moved there, and I've been there for the rest of my life, is it was a new area that was growing. The freeway was being put in. All the building just kept going out. Most everybody that moved into these weren't real expensive houses. They weren't real poor houses. They were middle-class working people. There was every kind of race, every kind of nationality, religion, whatever was there. But we moved at a pace right out, all the way out through part of Pinal County now. And you can go to any place out there and you'll find, and it's unusual because they all went to the same high schools. Then when they got out of the high schools, their kids went to the next high school, and their kids went to the next high school. I can go all the way out into the East Valley, Queen Creek, whatever, and there are kids of people that used to be my neighbors. They're on the same soccer teams, on football teams. We all still go to a lot of places. We meet in restaurants. Veterinarian. I took my dog down to emergency veterinarian. Here was a guy I knew 14 years ago. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate the work you're doing, and I know it's not always given credit for it.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Carey, but everyone calls me Gwen. I'm a stay-at-home mom. My husband and I are raising our 2 girls in Mesa. They were all born in this area. My girls will try out for the Downtown Mesa Metropolitan Youth Symphony this month. I have a violist and a bassist. We are currently looking for a neighborhood church, and I take active roles in our local homeschool group. My family enjoys building Legos, going to museums, raising guinea pigs, and doing maker projects. We recently discovered Alice Cooper's The Rock Teen Center near downtown Mesa. Our older daughter, who also plays guitar, will be joining a rock band there this fall. These are my communities of interest, my neighbors, raising families and using the public and private resources available to us in our neighborhood. We moved to Mesa this spring, but have lived in Phoenix Metro most of the past 40 years. At the time of the last redistricting, we were homeowners in Ahwatukee. Our district changed to include both sides of South Mountain. While both sides of this large natural barrier are considered Phoenix Metro, they're very different. South Phoenix is more urban, as it is a very short drive away from downtown Phoenix with its tall skyscrapers and underground parking. Ahwatukee is a sleepy little community of people who are happy to use a large mountain and major freeway to cut off from the hustle and bustle of true city life. We didn't even have city bus coverage for a very long time. Generally, it is also frustrating that the last districts drawn, some had 12% more population than others, and that, I feel, that watered down the strength of the vote in those two full districts. Our family loves our new home in Mesa. We love our community, the culture, shopping, local business, and opportunities for our children. Currently, LD 25 is compact and centered on Mesa, and I want it to stay that way. I want to have voting power with like-minded neighbors who love this little community like I do. I don't want a district drawn that doesn't represent the majority of people who live here or is unfairly weighted. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for doing this yeoman's job for Arizona citizens. Appreciate it. Am I at the right level for the mic? I just want to be sure. My name is Penny Sharon. I'm the President-elect of the League of Women Voters of Arizona and speaking on their behalf. Thank you for giving the League this opportunity. We have been listening along with at every one of these public hearings, and we have the following observations and comments, and we hope we will consider these as constructive to the work that you have in front of you. There are 6 mapping criteria, and the IRC needs to provide opportunities for public input and encourage input on all of the criteria. While the community of interest input is valuable for the IRC, it is in fact the AIRC job to oversee the mapping of fair and competitive districts. That's the specific language that voters read when they passed Proposition 106 in 2000. The League, as a nonpartisan organization, values balance, moderation, and working across the aisle. It's important that the IRC consider that in Arizona, we have approximately a 1/3 split in voter registrations between 2 major political parties and those who wish not to affiliate with any of the political parties. Having balanced competitive districts ensures all voters have choices as to who represents them. Within any geographic area, communities of interest are layered. I think our Councilman Giles really illustrated that point as to the layering of communities of interest in downtown Mesa. I used to work here for 30 years, even though I live in a different location.
Can we please finish?
Within any geographic area, the COIs are layered and may represent divergent interests. Regardless of whatever testimonies you have heard, there are likely to be other people you're not hearing from who might have different community of interest within roughly the same geographic area. We ask you as the Commission to address the issue of groups you're not hearing from, and we have a couple of recommendations. The first is there is room for improvement when it comes to public outreach. We are especially concerned about the many communities you're not hearing from, so we ask and we urge that you have more public hearings to expand your effort through public service announcements or paid ads to inform the public. You have an obligation to go beyond waiting for earned media. You might wait for a long time before you get that. And so we ask that you provide public service announcements so that the public is aware of these hearings. We also ask that you devise a more aggressive approach. And the way we would like to recommend that you do that is there are many community organizations present here today. And rather than using traditional media, we encourage you to consider working and reaching out to the community organizations to bring people here to speak at these public hearings. We know you have a very difficult task. You're volunteers and you're devoting many hours. We thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. I'd like to just make a comment before we move on. Thank you, Penny. We hear very much the public comment about what we're hearing and what we're not hearing. We will do diligent study to ensure that the redistricting process reflects the entire state of Arizona. Submit your public comments. We're reading them, we're studying them, and we're adjusting. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your service. It's thankless many times, and you get criticized unfairly, but we appreciate your willingness to do your job. I'm Charlie Schinke. I'm a Chandler resident for 13 years. When I read the Constitution of the state of Arizona, I see that it has set forth in order things that you should look at. I encourage you to do that and consider them in the order that they were written. As a resident of Chandler, I appreciate the fact that Chandler has a diverse population. It has an economic base that is fairly dissimilar to other cities nearby. If you are considering splitting up Chandler, however, you consider merging it with some of the people in Gilbert, which has a similar economic background, social background. But if you consider leaving Chandler together, which on a population basis you would be wise to do, Chandler offers its citizens a situation where people are willing to, as opposed to, like, for example, right now, the city of Chandler has 5 Republicans, 2 Democrats. So there is diversity there. It's not just a one size fits all. And again, thank you for doing your job.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. My name's Trudy Miller. I live in Carefree, Arizona. Thank you for providing this opportunity for the voters of Maricopa County to have our voices heard on this very important redistricting. I'm aware that you will be, juggling several factors as you work to draw our new legislative district boundaries. Like probably everyone here, I have strong opinions about each factor and the weight it should carry. And ultimately, though, your mandate is to the degree practicable to achieve an outcome that fulfills the concept of one person, one vote. I have lived in Maricopa County for cumulative more than 25 years. With some notable exceptions, I have not felt represented by my elected officials to make every vote valuable. I believe that the single most critical factor is competitiveness. With that, candidates will not be shoo-ins for one party or the other, but rather candidates will be obliged to appeal to each voter for their support. And once elected, they will be accountable to the voters. I believe a district such as this would discourage extremism and rigidity and encourage responsiveness and accessibility. Please give serious attention to the weight and importance of competitiveness. Thank you again.
As Jane Rode makes her way up here, the next 5 speakers, Connie Henry, Joanne Johnson, Crystal Camarillo, Ian Murray, W.M. Smith, Greg Brennan.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jane Rhodes. My husband and I live in Cave Creek in the current Clay Mine precinct. Thank you. Well, we identify with the sister towns of Cave Creek and Carefree. These towns are largely tourist destinations. That means that everybody that lives up our way goes south or southwest for 95% of our shopping, our services, and our social activities. So my COI reflects where we actually live day to day, which is south of those towns. It's where most of our doctors, veterinarians, and healthcare services are. It's where many of our friends live. Most people in my COI live here because we have access to urban amenities down in Phoenix if we need them, yet we're able to live a more private, semi-rural lifestyle. This also means we share a deep concern for water and especially wildfires. We have a vast network of horse lovers who help each other evacuate animals as needed. Unfortunately, it happens more than we like. You have inherited basically 2 problems that we're really looking for you to help solve for us. The first one is what I would call a past failure to recognize us as a community of interest. These precincts in the north, Clay Mine, Carefree, and Cave Creek, are in CD6 and LD1. And as part of LD1, we're grouped with Anthem and Yavapai County, with whom we share 0 common interest, economics, or culture. This is true regardless of party. We do share much with the COI as I have drawn it. The second, and to me most important criteria, is competitiveness, and I'm sorry to see it listed last in your criteria, because the northern half, or maybe more, of this COI is so non-competitive that I, as a Democrat, have had literally no chance of representation in the entire 17 years I've lived here. That's demoralizing, and it feels grossly unfair, and it makes me wonder why I should even bother to vote. So lastly, competitiveness is a constitutional mandate for the commission, and we absolutely need and expect you to consider that as a priority with respect to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Connie Campbell Henry. My husband and teenage son and I moved to Anthem in 1999. We were one of the first 100 families to move there. We moved here to Arizona from out of state for our jobs, which were in Phoenix. In the 22 years since then, hundreds of thousands of people have moved to the North Valley along that I-17 corridor. We are neither East Valley or West Valley. We are what I would call the North Valley, but we seem to be constantly lumped with either the either the East Valley or the West Valley, or completely forgotten. We would really appreciate a meeting of this commission and a lot of other commissions in this state in the North Valley. It was frustrating to me when in the 2000 election cycle rolled around that Anthem was lumped into LD1 and represented by 3 people from Prescott and more than an hour away and in basically a rural community and county. We have nothing in common with Yavapai County or Prescott. I've only gone there twice in 22 years as a tourist to a quaint little town, now trending an older retirement age population. The average age in Anthem is 43 years old. We moved to Anthem to ensure that we would be around all ages as we grew older. Now the majority of my suburban COI is mainly working families based along the I-17 corridor from Anthem to Bell Road, east to Cave Creek, west to 43rd Avenue. Our school district is Deer Valley Unified School District. And as these hundreds of thousands of people moved here in the last 2 decades, they're very diverse in age, religion, backgrounds, and politics. They're from all over the country. We shop and eat out and have health resources in our area. The North Valley is growing by leaps and bounds, and we're soon going to have a new semiconductor building there, business there. So we're a purple state. We're divided in thirds by Democrat, Republican, and Independents. I believe my COI falls into that category, and I hope that you consider that when you are redistricting. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for volunteering. I know this, you've listened to how many of these meetings? 15? It can be gruesome. My name is Joanne Johnson, and I have been a resident of Arizona for 37 years. My husband and I moved here, and we still live in the same house, actually. First house we bought. And our children were born and raised here. But 10 years ago, the Redistricting Commission, in my opinion, created a map based on politics. They gerrymandered the map to ridiculous ends, as you're hearing from everybody here. My husband and I, we followed the commission 10 years ago, and my husband has faithfully followed every single meeting on Zoom this year also. But 10 years ago, we spoke our minds, our opinions at a redistricting meeting, just like I'm doing today. But our voices were pretty much ignored. I'm just asking, please, please, consider community's interest as a primary directive in redistricting our state. That's it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Crystal Carrillo. I actually spoke at the Glendale Commission meeting, so I'm actually speaking on behalf of one of my neighbors, Alice-Ann Meadows. She says, thank you, Commission, for hearing our concerns. I'm Alice-Ann Meadows, a 46-year resident of LD 30. The district is about 7 miles north to south and 5 to 6 miles east to west with I-17 running through. The district has changed a lot over the 46 years, from fairly homogeneous Anglo middle class to widely diverse ethnicities and economics. Since retiring, I've become more active in the governing of my local area. What I have found is an active and dedicated group of citizens. I am enthused and impressed with the young Latinos who take an active interest in improving the lives of all our citizens in the district. Our LD 30 citizens and PCs are all ethnicities and professions: teachers, nurses, public servants, school board members, and blue-collar workers who have come together to create visions and goals for our district. It is a solid group of people working together to help each other. I would ask that you strictly follow the 6 guidelines as you work through this process. In particular, please keep districts competitive. Not doing so will harm our district as well as other districts. We need to be able to have representatives who represent the citizens who reside within them. I would also request that you extend the public forums to allow more citizen input in venues and times that are easy and convenient for the citizens you are working for. Thank you for listening to us, the public, and for this critical and very important role you have volunteered for. Thank you.
1 minute, please.
I'd like to make a comment before the next speaker. We're hearing some comments about competitiveness Yes, it is in equal constitutional criteria. We're giving it a tremendous thought and attention because it's complicated. As you're speaking about competitiveness, understand that it comes as the last constitutional criteria, and we consider it as long as it does not cause detriment to the other constitutional criteria. Why am I mentioning this? If you are speaking about competitiveness and you feel that a community of interest will be harmed, or your community of interest needs a voice, please speak to it from that constitutional criteria of your community of interest. We're collecting all of the data, but all of this just helps provide more data for us to collectively put these pieces together. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ian Murray. I'm the Republican chairman of Legislative District 25. I'm a fourth generation Arizonan. I was born in Superior, so I've been around for a little while. One of the things I think that we ought to take into account as we look at the criteria is the Native American nations need to be up there at least at the same level as the counties. Because to me, over the years, I've seen how they've been kind of forgotten and left off, and they need to be taken into account. In 2000, we saw the Hopi Nation and the Navajo Nation split into two different congressional districts. I thought that was a really good idea because it allowed the Hopi to have their own congressman as well as the Navajo to have their own congressman. I thought that was really good. As we move down here, as a legislative chairman, I've seen the issues that have been caused when legislative districts cross multiple county boundaries and we have to elect a legislator out of those districts, and that has to be appointed by the Board of Supervisors, because in some cases what happens is that the county that the person resided in that resigned or was removed from office can only be replaced from somebody from that county, even though, as we've heard from other people, a legislative district might stretch all the way from Goodyear down to Yuma. So I ask you very, very carefully to take first to take the native nations into account, then the counties, then the cities, and then basically get down to that level before you actually do it, and try to put everyone in as few congressional districts and LDs as possible. In LD 25, I have like 7 precincts that reside in CD9 and the rest reside in CD5. So those people in our district get very little attention from the person from CD9. In LD 26, they've got 3 different congressional districts that cross into LD 26. I think Yavapai County was divided into 3 different, if not legislative districts, congressional districts in the last election. So yeah, so I'm just asking you to try and keep everything together as much as possible. And please, please, put the Native American tribes at the highest level you can with the counties, because every one of those has their own culture and heritage that needs to be respected. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Chairman, Commission. My name is William Smith. I live in northern Paradise Park. Paradise Park is the northernmost precinct of LD 28, and I am a victim of competitiveness. In the last districting, we're the last one. We're up there at the top. I'm sure we're brought in because we are pretty closely balanced between Democrats and Republicans in our area. But my wife and I chose to live there because it is a mixed community. It has senior citizens and young people that are having kids. We have Hispanics, not too many blacks up there, but it's a mixed community. We chose to live there. We have professionals and we have things. I have nothing in common with the people that run LD 28 that are from Paradise Valley, the community, the township of Paradise Valley. When I got redistricting into 28, they stole my political voice. I'm very active in the city of Phoenix. They have absolutely zero interest in what happened to the city of Phoenix. In my old LD 7, most of the people in it were also in Phoenix. We were able to work in city elections, city council elections, do that. And so one other thing I ask you to do is emulate Iowa as much as you can. I realize that we are not a sectional state. So we have boundary areas and we have reservations that we have to do. But they work hard to balance the people between the cities, period, with no overruns, period. They've been as close as 50, maximum of 50 difference between the LDs, and as close as 3. So they know how to do it. They absolutely have no regard for where the damn incumbents live. And I'm asking you, completely disavow any incumbent that comes in. Thank you. I appreciate your time and your vote. Thank you.
The next 5 speakers, before the next speaker comes up, is Mary Gutierrez, Crystal Dohenos, Len Westerhausen, Beth Bremmer, Paul White.
Good evening, Commissioners. Gary Brennan. I live in Tempe, Arizona. Been there for 60 years of my 71 life. I live in a district that would be bordered by Chandler. I want to move it west at 48th Street. I want to move north to McDowell Road, even though that has a little bit of Scottsdale in it, and east to Dobson Road. That's where my community of interest resides. Why? Because we have some major economic engines in that area. We have the Arizona State University. We have Maricopa Community College, Mesa. We have the Rio Salado School Community College District. Those are engines that need to be preserved. We have the interest of being literally bracketed by 4 legs of freeway. That impacts our air quality. That impacts our transportation. That impacts our ability to bicycle through the community safely. So now that there's a whole lot of work being done on the Broadway curve, we folks that are in central Tempe have a whole lot of interest in making sure that works right. We then have a very easy access to the Phoenix Municipal Airport that feeds this entire metropolitan area. We want to preserve that. Why am I mentioning those? I need a congresswoman or man who will represent my needs and what I need economically for all of that to keep thriving. I need to have a state legislator who will make that impact continue. And finally, another community of interest of mine is my property up in Pine, Arizona. We're represented in the Congress by a congressperson who really speaks more to Mojave County and La Paz County. Has absolutely nothing to do with what we're doing in Gila County. The only thing we share across that wide swath in that U-shaped congressional district are wildfires. So take a look at that, please.
Hello, my name is Mary Gutierrez. My husband and I live in Mesa in Maricopa County, and I'm here to give you information about my communities of interest. I work a couple blocks from our home in Mesa. I shop at the stores just a few miles from us on Signal Butte, as well as on Power Road in nearby Gilbert. We regularly frequent the restaurants in Mesa and Gilbert, and just started using the Mesa Library, which has been beautifully remodeled. We enjoy walking our dog at the Riparian Preserve and taking in the wildlife. We've done some hiking and on Silly Mountain. I don't know if you've been there, but it's really kind of nice for beginners. Looking out over the valley. So we really enjoy the community that we're living in, receiving medical care, and we've also noticed now that they're doing a lot of building in the East Valley. There's going to be a Mountainside Fitness and a large sports facility that's going to be built. So I believe that it is important for the Commission to follow the Constitution by adhering to all the 6 of its criteria for designation boundaries, like we've all talked about. I believe the previous Commission was too focused on competitiveness, resulting in nearly half of the population bound to feel unrepresented. The previous maps that were drawn did not have equal population, where some districts had 12% more population than others. And I believe that districts should be compact to accurately represent the communities of interest who live and work together. LD 16 currently includes parts of Gold Canyon, Apache Junction, Santan Valley, Queen Creek, and Mesa. I believe the boundaries should be drawn more compactly by city. Congressional District 5 splits the city of Chandler, and I believe that it should be kept whole and in a different district altogether, and also that we should include all of Apache Junction instead of only part. Thank you for your time.
My name is Crystal DeHanis, and I live in East Mesa in LD16. I am here today to give you information about my community of interest. So I'm a stay-at-home mom, which means I rarely get to stay at home. Instead, I spend most of my time driving around the area to activities that my children participate in. My children attend a local charter school. They enjoy local activities like the movies, and we go to Superstition, Queen Creek, Santan Mall area. We play Mesa Youth Sports and travel around the area for all of their games. We have family in Gilbert near Power Road, and Mesa is off of Sossaman. We spend a copious amount of time with our family, and not to mention all the amazing friends that we have connected with in our community. Our oldest works off of Single View and Baseline, and over the years, our community has done a great job bringing everyone together, and I'd like to continue to see our community stay connected, and I worry that our district may be divided up unfairly. I believe the previous commission was too focused on competitiveness, resulting in nearly half of the population feeling unrepresented. I spend a lot of my free time talking with many others in our state, and it's a sad state to be in when others feel like their voices are not being heard. I also believe it's important for the commission to follow the Constitution by adhering to all 6 criteria for the design boundaries. The previous maps that were drawn did not have equal population, and some districts had 12% more population than others. I think the district should be compact and accurately represent communities of interest who live and work together. LD16, as mentioned, currently includes Gold Canyon, Apache Junction, Santan Valley, Queen Creek, and Mesa, and I believe that the boundaries should be drawn more compactly by city. And Congressional CD5 splits in the city of Chandler, and I believe it should be kept whole or in a different district altogether. And we should also include Apache Junction instead of only part of Apache Junction.
Thank you.
My name is Lynn. My wife and I, plus 2 children, live in a sprawling area of Mesa, Maricopa County, where the old GM Proving Grounds once existed, zip code 85212. I'm here today to give you information about my communities of interest. I work full-time from home in Mesa as a network operations technician, and my wife is a teacher in Queen Creek. One child of mine attends school walking distance from my home, and the other attends school in Gilbert. We shop at stores just north of State Route 60 in Signal Butte and Mesa, as well as those on Power Road and Ray and nearby Gilbert. We regularly frequent restaurants in Queen Creek Marketplace on Ellsworth and Rittenhouse. My family and I attend church in Gilbert and sometimes in Mesa. My family and I enjoy walking desert trails in Superstition and Santan Mountain areas. We welcome the indoor sporting complex being erected on Ellsworth Road. LD16 currently includes parts of Gold Canyon, Apache Junction, Santan Valley, Queen Creek, and Mesa. I believe the boundaries should be drawn more compactly by city. Congressional District 5 splits the city of Chandler. I believe it should be kept whole and in part different district altogether. Also, we should include all Apache Junction instead of only part. I believe it is important for this commission to follow the Constitution by adhering to all 6 of its criteria for designation boundaries. It seems as though nearly half the population are disenfranchised for feeling unrepresented. This is most likely due to the previous commission being focused on competitiveness. These previous maps were drawn did not have equal population, which resulted in unbalanced districts. I believe districts should be more compact so they more accurately represent communities of interest who share lifestyle commonalities. Thank you.
As the next speaker makes her way up here, we will take a break after this speaker for 10 minutes. And I'm lining up the next 5 speakers: Andrea Gainey, Miriam Wick, Greg Waters, Barbara Meadow, and Charles Scheinke.
Charles already spoke.
Charles already spoke?
He
Okay.
did.
I have 2 cards for you, I guess.
That's good.
The next speakers will be after the break. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Beth Bremmer, and I've lived in the East Valley since I was 5. The economic corridor along the Loop 101 in the East Valley is an area where people tend to live, play, and work with similar professional workplaces. Thank you. Slow as it goes. School district academic qualities, suburban communities, which are dependent on the 101 for transportation, and have similar tourism appeal for economic benefits, such as golf courses, malls, resorts, activities such as water parks. These aspects are reflected in having similar goals about funding of education, clean water availability, clean electricity sources, accessible and non-polluting transportation options, and overall climate concerns being in the desert. Where I grew up and where I live and mostly go to see friends and family and work and shop is guided by where the east arm of the 101 takes me. Also, since moving to the part of Chandler in LD 18 and CD 9, I've discovered a strong community has developed from this LD and CD framework and would like to continue to be part of that LD. I appreciate that it has allowed my vote to make a difference and I feel represented. If the LD were to expand, I would expect it to include the north part of Tempe up to Tempe Town Lake and include some more to the east to expand to more of Mesa and Chandler. Thank you.
At this time, we'll take a 10-minute break. We will be back at 7:13.
Already ran out of one.
Well, those people have spoken a couple times. That gal with the Latino deal. That's just, she had the same, she showed up in Phoenix and she showed up in Glendale.
I've seen that. There's probably a couple dozen have done that.
Which I appreciate, but we're not stupid. I turned it off. What's that? We're going to start when Commissioner Watchman gets back, so he's not here yet. So just hang on a second. All right, if we could grab our seats, please, and we'll get started. And also, when we're speaking, please respect the speakers and keep your comments to yourself.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you very much. I've appreciated watching you in the meetings so far. It seems to me, though, that the rubber's about to hit the road. The main decisions that you've made in the past several months, they're in the past, and some people are happy, some people are not. But with the draft maps to come in the near future, with the census data to come this week, and the rest of the process, you have the chance to show that this is a nonpartisan exercise. After all, here in Arizona, we're leaders in this area.
Sleeping.
I didn't do it. There we go. Thank you. The community of interest that I'm most interested in tonight is the Kyrene School District. It makes up the Ahwatukee area, portions of Tempe, Chandler. It's not only an educational community of interest, but it's also an economic community of interest. It's an employment community of interest. We have major employers, Intel, et cetera, in the area. A lot of the people that work there are in that area as well. And a plus is that it is a competitive district. I'm not one to say that people are victims of competitiveness either in the last districting or the redistricting that you're going to be doing, because having fair and competitive districts is a very important constitutional requirement that you guys are going to be taking into account. And so you all are used to community service and the thanklessness of community service. I think you've taken on the most thankless community service task of all by volunteering to be commissioners. And I am confident that you guys are going to do the constitutional duties that you've sworn to do in making good maps for Arizona, fair and competitive maps for Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Waters.
My name's Andrea Guinea. I've lived in West Chandler for 24 years. And I had a big, long thing, but I've just been chopping it all up because I've heard so many people speak very eloquently on many of my concerns. I live in LD 18. Before I understood your process, I thought I was just going to be able to say, please preserve the boundaries of LD 18, but obviously you guys don't get a cheat sheet to know what that is. So I'll be going online, drawing the boundaries, but the community of interest that I represent is Kyrene School District, and so that you really understand it, Kyrene School District is not just Chandler. It includes Chandler, it includes Tempe, it includes South Phoenix, which is Ahwatukee, little snip of Mesa. We have students from Gila River Indian Community, and when you're in the Kyrene School District, you can open enroll. So I, as a West Chandler resident, if I think my kids will do better in an environment at one of the Kyrene schools that's across I-10 in South Phoenix, I can petition to open enroll. So I can have my children going there. I can have my children attending a Kyrene school that's in Tempe, not in Chandler. So when I hear people say all of Chandler should be one large legislative district, I absolutely disagree with that, because what I have in common with East Chandler, close by Gilbert, we don't share community of interest. Almost everyone I know moves into our area to be in the Kyrene School District. And the Kyrene School District, I guess, is a unique animal that includes students from all different cities. And as such, we can move among those schools and we become attached to all those different communities. So you guys have to really thread the needle. You couldn't pay me $1 million to do what you guys are gonna have to do. And I just wanna put that light on the Kyrene School District and how that really is the central part of our community of interest. So thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you so much for that comment, and I would like to say the feedback on school districts, they're extremely helpful to us. They're meaningful data points. And so the more people want to comment about their school districts and how it relates to what we're doing, it's an informative data point.
And to echo that, if you missed that in your comment, you can go online and post a public comment as well.
Hello, I am optimistic that this commission will do as good a job as its 2011 predecessor in emphasizing fair and competitive districts statewide. It would be very disappointing if Arizona reverted to pre-commission ways, trying to avoid competitive districts by packing minorities into a couple of districts or diluting groups among multiple districts. Arizona has a sordid history when it comes to redistricting and Native Americans, for example. It is up to this commission to make sure that it overcomes political pressure and ensures that its mapping experts produce the most fair and competitive maps. Kyrene School District is diverse and has been existent for a number of years. It should be deemed a community of interest, and legislative district lines should be based on that. We all hope and want competitive and fair districts, fair for all, close between Democrats, Republicans. So I would urge you, boundaries, the 101, South Mountain, Guadalupe Road, and the 202.
Call for Greg Waters.
My name is Barbara Medall. I'd like to thank you, all commissioners, for the work you're doing. I know it's not easy. My name is Barbara Medall. I'm a Tempe, Maricopa County resident for 43 years. I worked in a local hospital until I retired. All my children went to the same schools. Our church at present is in a different district. Two of my children also reside in Tempe with their families. One lives in the Rotary Club precinct, LD 18, mere blocks away on the other side of south of Southern, while we still reside on the north side in LD 26. Pepperwood precinct, the only Tempe precinct, is in LD 27, and, which is the Phoenix district. They are the only Tempe one. Which I didn't have in here, but when I heard some gentlemen talking from the reservation, we also in District 26 have a Honda precinct, which is from the reservation. We never see them. There is no interest in 26 for these on the reservation. They did indeed need to be together. We have one Phoenix precinct that was switched out with the one Tempe precinct that went over into 27. So again, the town, the schools, the school boards, all of this is so critical to our common interest, and yet we have all been so divided. Before retirement, my husband actually worked locally as an engineer in an office in Tempe, where the local businesses are compromised of local resident owners also sharing in our common interest. The previous commission was too focused on competitiveness, which included up to as many as 4 towns. When districts are competitive, the population is unrepresented, and certainly even our state legislators have to deal with issues of more than one city, which can be detrimental and create divisiveness. Many of our towns are... Thank you.
The next 5 speakers, Jennifer Grigsby, Barbara Yates, Chasman Pullman, Daryl Covert, Sherry Pettery. Next speaker, Jennifer Grigsby.
Hi. Thank you for listening. Going to just address the 9th Congressional District where I am at. And it's like a U shape. It goes across Phoenix. It's got Mesa. It's got most of Tempe. It's got south of South Mountain. So we've got Ahwatukee. And that I find problematic in that my congressman, who is a great congressman, he has so many things to be concerned about. He's got ASU. He's got the regional airport to go on. He's got rural residential areas. He's got a lot of scientific stuff. He's got so much. He's got a little bit of the Indian reservation. He's got all these things, so that where he sits on committees and where he's going to be concentrating his interests or trying to get money to come back into the state after we pay all those taxes to the federal government, it's his job to listen to all of these folks about what is important and where that money goes. It's too much. It's way too much. I'd like to see it a lot more compacted so that our congressmen can concentrate and focus on smaller communities of interest or number of communities of interest. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Barbara Yates. Both my husband and I are Arizona natives. We met in high school on Mesa High School's senior trip to Disneyland, and we're married 2 years later, now for almost 41 years. In 1985, my husband was commissioned in the Air Force, and we spent 22 years living all over the world. Our 2 sons were born in Germany shortly before the Berlin Wall fell. Yes, I'm not old. My husband retired from the Air Force in 2007 as a lieutenant colonel. We returned home to Gilbert, this time Arizona. Our 2 sons received scholarships to ASU, both earned engineering degrees. Our oldest lives in Gilbert, works for APS, and is married with 4 beautiful children that are the joy of our lives. Our youngest son is 3rd generation Air Force and is stationed in Japan. We are very proud of our family and the history of service and sacrifice to the state and country we love. A year and a half ago, my husband and I built a beautiful new home and moved to Queen Creek. We love our new home, neighborhood, and town. Queen Creek has a refreshing rural feeling. On more than one occasion, I have seen a person walking their calf down the road on a leash. I love the openness, the trucks that fly American flags, Friday night food trucks, but also the nearby convenient shopping. Mostly, I love the kind and friendly people with shared values and ideas. I believe North and Northwest Gilbert have more in common with LD 17 and LD 25. They share the same community needs in transportation, infrastructure, housing, and demographics. South and Central Gilbert, Queen Creek, and the western part of Santan Valley all align. We share similar community needs in transportation, infrastructure, housing, and demographics. Here, we live the same and work the same. And I will end by saying thank you for your time on this commission.
Good evening. My name is Charmin Pullman, and I'm a native of Arizona for 61 years. I have lived in Maricopa County my entire life. I attended Phoenix Elementary Schools and then finished junior high and high school in Mesa. I married, and our 4 children attended elementary through high schools in East Mesa. I now live in Southeast Mesa, LD 16. We built our home near Signal Butte and Guadalupe. We built our home in that area because of like-minded ideas of the people. The ideas include school choice. There are public and charter schools in my area. Religious, several church buildings within a 3-mile radius. My family attends weekly church meetings. Low crime. The police actively participate in our neighborhood events. They assist in our neighborhood watch programs. The police are aware of the mishaps that occur and responds quickly. Retail and small businesses are very close to our home. I, being semi-retired, we are close enough to walk to the stores, which is really nice. I am in CD5 district. It incorporates Chandler City, which is a long distance away. My CD should be compact, whole, not cut in half by Chandler. It does not make sense to have Chandler divided into 2 districts or more, each with its own separate set of issues. There are no common community of interest, being from East Mesa on out. This is personal. My district should be smaller because of so much housing development, like Eastmark is going up in many of the other southern, south parts of Santan Valley. This all increases the population of the housing development. LD 16 is part of Apache Junction, Mesa, Gilbert, and Santan Valley. Santan Valley is split into LD 8, LD 12, and LD 16. Thank you for your time.
Second call for Daryl Covert and Sherry Pettery. I'm calling the next 4 speakers: Lena Hatch, Paul Scheinbring, Zachary Hernandez, Brandy Reese. Daryl Covert.
Daryl left.
Sherry. Lena Hatch. Paul Scheinbring. Schubring.
Good evening. My name is Paul Schubring. I'm a resident of Gilbert, Arizona. I would like to begin by thanking the Commission for your willingness to be part of our state's redistricting process. I realize that this process is a difficult and challenging one. While the redistricting effort is in no way an easy task, I believe it can be a simple one. Our Constitution provides a roadmap and framework to be used as a guide during this process. Although there may be criticisms that arise during the process, if you execute your duties by following and adhering to all 6 of the criteria listed, then most criticisms can be considered baseless. I would like to encourage the Commission to ensure that the district populations are balanced, sizes are efficient, and that communities of interest are truly communities of interest. As mentioned, I am a resident of Gilbert. I believe that it is important to maintain and follow communities of interest for social, educational, and economic reasons. From a social perspective, the only thing greater in Gilbert, the families in Gilbert, than our love for family and nation is our love for God. A very high percentage of our community regularly attends church and invests time serving others. We value honesty, integrity, and service in our community. In terms of education, we are part of the Gilbert. We also have Higley and even Chandler school districts. We have several charter school networks such as Great Hearts, Basis, Heritage Academies, Ben Franklin, and many others that operate in Gilbert as well. And the vast majority of these interests are well aligned to the needs of the families that are represented here. From an economic perspective, the best way to represent the economic livelihood is to maintain our current community of interest. I'm the president of 2 technology companies in Gilbert. The companies that I run develop new products that support the technology industry. Many of my fellow residents in Gilbert derive their livelihood from tech and those related companies, and as such, it is important to have elected representatives that understand the needs of our community as it relates to economic and social policies for these companies, and even me as a small business executive. Once again, I would like to thank you for your willingness to be part of and lead this process. I would like to thank you in advance for your integrity in making decisions that follow our Constitution and for your commitment to maintaining communities of interest so that the needs of each community are adequately addressed. Thank you.
Zachary Hernandez. Brandy. Zachary.
I imagine that commissioners receive a lot of input, and I think that's an understatement. Is that unanimous? And that input is more than any one of you can handle. But commissioners, you have the benefit of talking to each other, and your decisions are a lot better because of everything that helps facilitate that communication between you. One thing that happens, all commissioners are on just one commission. 2 of you also on the commission for California, 2 of you also on the commission for New Mexico. That would be now us voters. We have a hard time getting together with our communities of interest because we're on so dang many different commissions, or as we officially call them, districts. The reason I know this is because I tried to find out which of my neighbors vote on the same choices that I vote on. That is, people that are in the same boundaries as me for everything, because I want to get together into these communities of interest I keep hearing about. It sounds nice. So I went on Google Maps and I imported all the state and federal district boundaries, and I added my city council district too. And I looked to see which of my neighbors I'm making decisions with on all parts of my ballot. I call this neighborhood my democracy block because all our democracy decisions are made together. And tonight we keep talking about what a community is. It's a question for the ages. It's a question for philosophers, and it's a question for commissioners. As you draw these maps, I bet you'll feel like Atlas. Huh? And by now, you 5 probably feel like a community. Well, it helps that your community is not split up into a bunch of different, partially overlapping groups. But I am. All us voters are. There is exactly one rule that helps us out with this. It doesn't help just one community of interest. It helps all voters. And this beautiful guideline is the nesting of districts in our state legislature. Nobody complains about that, right? Same senators, same representatives, the whole boundary. People like this and nobody complains. People like this and nobody complains. In the months ahead, you will not have many chances to say that. So my as much as you can help it, nest state legislative districts inside the congressional districts. Don't cut our communities up into fractions of state and national boundaries, because there's already city and county stuff you can't even control. Keep us together with what you can control. It's the best thing you could do with democracy. It'll help us talk to each other, and then we'll do just fine forming our own communities of interest. Thanks for listening. I'm glad we can do this.
Good evening. My name is Brandy Reese. Thank you for listening to us this evening. I live in South Gilbert near Chandler Heights Road, west of Power Road. My family and I moved here 4 years ago for my husband's work. His job site is in Mesa, but we specifically chose Gilbert, which is in LD 12 and CD 5, because of Chandler Unified School Districts and the public schools and the depth and breadth of educational offerings. Of interest includes families with school-age children, that includes and values education, specifically our neighborhood schools. At present, my elected officials in LD 12 and CD 5 do not represent my values and interests in education, specifically in public schools. I would like my new LD and CD to include the geographic location to the west of me in and around Chandler that values and includes our neighborhood schools and understands that they are the anchor of a neighborhood, providing continuity of friendships for our kids as they move through the public school system. These schools are the glue that hold our neighborhood and our society together, from our after-school activities, sporting events, and more. My community of interest also includes family households in the neighborhood. It does not include large, unincorporated, rural, or county islands that are more agricultural, such as the area to the east of me in Queen Creek, which is currently respectfully ask as well that the period of submission of COI, communities of interest, mapping tools be extended until the grid maps are released next month in mid-September.
The next 4 speakers, John Luker, Joseph.
Good evening. I'm Joseph Garcia, Vice President for Public Policy for Chicanos por la Causa, also Executive Director of CPLC Action Fund. 1/4 of eligible voters in Arizona are Latinos and growing. About a third of our population are Latino and growing. And yet, there's no Latino representation on the commission. There's none on the commission, there's none on the executive staff commission. If there were no white representation on the commission, I imagine you'd hear complaints about that as well. If there's been a general theme among Latino speakers, it's been that Latino voters have not been heard. There's not been enough hearings, public hearings. There's not been any public hearing from the commission on racially polarized voting, where one group, say Latinos, are pretty much pitted against somebody else, but their vote is diluted because it's less. There has been no special hearings from the commission on Latino minority districts. There have been for Native American voters, but none for Latino minority districts. So we've heard about no Latino representation or hearing in South Phoenix, Levine, also in Maryvale, heavily Latino districts. No hearings from Latinos there. We also know about the digital divide, where many Latinos don't have access to websites or information on social media. They're not responding to community surveys online. So we implore you to hold additional hearings on racial polarized voting, and also in Latino minority districts, and also in heavily Latino districts, voting districts, to get the feel and understanding of where Latino voters are and what we think about. That's important, and I think that this commission has a long way to prove that they're interested in hearing about Latino voters and about communities of interest. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Simacek. I live 15 years in Awatuki foothills and before. Closer, okay. I'm Thomas Simacek. I live for 15 years in Awatuki foothills, which is the area of Phoenix south of South Mountain and west of I-10. This is a very tight community. We really have a hard time even driving anywhere else. The South Mountain is kind of big break, now the new freeway, the 202. So we would really like to have, at least I would like to have this community kept together. On the other hand, the Congressional District 9, as was mentioned several times, was driven really weirdly, and we got lumped with some areas I've never been to in Phoenix. Actually, still in Phoenix, but North Phoenix, South Phoenix, quite different. So we were actually, I would actually thought it would be nice if we could get some of the community south of us.
Good evening. My name is Tatiana Peña. I'm a first-generation American-born Latina from immigrant Central American parents. I am married and a mother of 4 girls in South Phoenix. I'm an LD 27, and I have my youngest with me here. It can be done, you guys. I was born, raised, and educated in South Phoenix. My children go to school in South Phoenix as well. I go to church and serve in many of my community's groups. My husband and I are very involved in the church as well in South Phoenix. We actually are leaders of one of our congregations there. I am here to share my insights about our respective legislative District 27. Currently, the I do not know how this district will change, if it does at all. I am here to ask that South Phoenix and Levine remain together. I also ask that the Elwood precinct, which is not in our district, it's in LD 25, but is actually a part of South Phoenix, be returned to South Phoenix in the same district. We share a lot of the same culture and understanding. Our communities have been side by side for decades. The majority of Arizona's Black community resides within South Phoenix and Levine. For many decades, Arizona's strongest Black community was in the same district in the city council district, legislative district, and congressional district. Last time we went through redistricting, the community was divided into 2 different city council districts. This weakened the voice of the Black community in Arizona. This is wrong. We must unite them and no longer divide their voice. Many, many Latino immigrant families live in our region as well, as you heard from many others who shared today. The area has grown considerably, and we have even more diversity than before, and it is wonderful. We have so much in common. I ask for you to consider that, and please follow the Constitution when making these decisions. Thank you so much.
I have a follow-up question. I would just like to thank you for your voices and to say we have not heard much from the African American community. We are just starting our listening tour, and so if there are additional perspectives, please reach out to our commission so we know who we're not hearing from.
Thank you. And I'd also like to add that I do have some support from both sides. I think we agree a lot on both South Phoenix, Lilly, and St. together. Thank you.
Submit your data.
I will.
The next four speakers, Travis Heath, Jim Chaston, Nancy Cottle, Suzanne Steiner, Travis Heath, not here, Jim Chaston,
He's coming.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Jim Chaston. I lived in Arizona for 35 years. However, it's been on 3 different stints. I've lived in Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, Maricopa, and I now reside in Ahwatukee. I'm a CPA. I'm a business owner. While we lived in Maricopa, I served on the Maricopa Unified School District. The community of interest that I live in is that, excuse me, surprisingly, it's nervous up here, is Ahwatukee is a very suburban area. We have retirees, we have families, and Dobson Ranch and Tempe and Chandler are not communities of interest for me and the people that I work with, that I serve. We are much more closely aligned with Maricopa and those communities to the south of us that also have retirement communities, have families with children that they're raising. Transportation issues that are community of interest, where Ahwatukee has now the 202 that goes around. However, there's always been transportation issues to get out of it, similar to Maricopa. They understand those same transportation issues, and those are my community of interest that I would like you to recognize and consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nancy Cottle, and I'm a resident in East Mesa. I live between Power Road and Usery Pass, McDowell and McKellips. It's known as the Desert Uplands. It's been a very unique area, the Upper Sonoran Desert, and very beautiful for a long time. Our home is on an elevated lot surrounded by cactus, desert foliage, and when we moved to Mesa 35 years ago, we enjoyed traveling on dirt roads and the beautiful views that we had at night of the Phoenix skyline. My district is LD 25, and it's one of the largest in the county. and our zip code is 85207. I serve as an elected state committeeman in Hermosa Vista Precinct. We reside in a beautiful county island, and we are served by Rural Metro, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department, and others in private sector. The changes that have taken place over the years in this particular area of Mesa have encouraged well-planned development and growth. Schools in Mesa, in particular the East Valley, are some of the finest. As a retired Boeing executive, I have enjoyed volunteering in the neighborhood schools and even substitute teaching from time to time in the Mesa Public District, which is the largest in the state. That is one of my favorite communities of interest. Also at Falcon Field, that supports the aviation growth that we have seen in the East Valley. Enjoy the restaurants, the parks, sporting events, shopping, attending church, and have come to know our neighbors as well as many others throughout all of Mesa proper. We are minutes away from beautiful hiking areas, Saguaro Lake, golf courses, and the Rio Salado Gun Club. I would urge the IRC to be mindful to keep our area intact versus including my neighborhood with communities further east of us or to the south of us, and to adhere, please, to the goals set forth in the Arizona Constitution. I thank you all for serving, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
As Susan makes her way up here, the next four speakers, Amanda Lugo, Evelyn Castillo, Nancy Dombrowski, Rhonda Smith. Susan?
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Suzanne Scher, and I am an
Suzanne.
Arizona native. I refuse to say how many years that equals, but I'm also...
No, just talking this one, and that WebEx will pick it up.
Okay, thank you. And I am short, so... Thank you very much. I am a realtor, a small business owner, a mother, and a grandmother. I have worked and raised a family and lived in LD 18 since its inception in the last redistricting and beyond. I am also a commissioner for the City of Phoenix Ahwatukee Village Planning Committee, and I ran for LD State Senate in 2020. That was quite a ride. Having these unique opportunities to serve and be involved in my community, it has allowed me the ability to hear directly from citizens within the different areas of LD 18 and what has been important to them. And what I was hearing is that we do indeed have a district of varying interests, goals, and ideals. Ahwatukee is a community that is very suburban in nature, from growing families to folks looking for their place of retirement. I believe we would share that commonality with the towns south of us, such as Maricopa and others to our south, rather than Tempe and the City of Phoenix, who are much more urbanized and transient in nature. Chandler and Mesa are following suit with the building up of their downtown urban scenes, and we are somehow included with all of this. While both are indicators of a healthy, growing state, the needs and interests are quite different from one another. We have almost no commonality with these areas, and that fact is growing more each day. Also, to quickly note that the previous maps did not have equal population, with some districts having 12% more population than others. I respectfully ask the Commission to follow all 6 of the criteria laid out in the Arizona Constitution, populations, and honor the Indian community we border. We all appreciate how difficult this job is, but I'm asking you to consider putting the Ahwatukee foothills west of the I-10 and to the south, and not in Phoenix, Tempe, Mesa, or Chandler. And thank you again for this opportunity to speak tonight.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Lugo. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, in Legislative District 24, Congressional District 6. I serve as the Democracy Director at the Arizona Center for Empowerment. I want to thank the IRC for holding this meeting. I'm here on behalf of ACE to request that the 4 majority legislative districts in Phoenix be upheld and protected. These legislative districts are 19, 27, 29, 30, and have a large Latinx population, particularly in the West Valley, that have the right to choose who represents them in the legislature. The right for communities of color to elect a member of their own choosing is protected by the Voting Rights Act, and Commission must uphold those protections in the maps that they draft for the next decade of Arizona's electoral representation. The Latinx community deserves the right to elect leaders we can hold accountable to our communities, calling on them to specifically represent regional interests and the interests of our communities at the legislature where our voices must be heard. I would also like to request that the IRC extend the Community of Interest Survey deadline in order to make this a more inclusive process and to hear the communities that are not here presently this evening. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your service.
Can you please just reiterate the LDs that you mentioned?
Legislative District 19, 27, 29, and 30.
Okay.
And you're from CD6 and LD?
CD6, LD24, and I'm the Democracy Director at the Arizona Center for Empowerment.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Evelyn Rodas Castillo, and I was born and raised here in Mesa, Arizona. I'm the East Valley Community Organizer for Lucha and ACE, Arizona Center for Empowerment. And I'm here representing my community and my family. My family still resides in Mesa on Alma School and Broadway, which is part of LD26 in the 9th Congressional District. I am part of a mixed status family, and growing up, we lived in more homes than I can remember. My mom worked 2 to 3 jobs and cared for 3 kids alone. We jumped from home to home thinking that the instability we were facing was normal. I didn't realize it then, but my whole life had been and continues to be political. We didn't have the privilege of having heat during the winters or warm water to level out the cold showers. We didn't have the privilege of choosing where we can go to school. We didn't have the privilege of having health insurance so that we can attend to our human needs. We didn't have the privilege of electing local officials that would create policy with our communities, experiences, and struggles at the forefront of their decisions, and it shows. It shows because this is still the case, not just for my family, but countless others that I know go through the same. We are continuing to see our people facing the same instability and insecurity. Just this past year, we saw attacks on communities of color through voter suppression bills, through attacks on education from the state budget, and through families losing their jobs under a pandemic because of the lack of support and leadership. I cannot imagine the next 10 years if others continue to speak for me and my family. Communities of color have a voice, and we need to maintain our right to choose. And so that's why I'm here. I'm here because representation matters. Our stories and experiences as Latinx voters and community members matter. That is why the Commission needs to maintain or expand the number of districts where communities of color have the ability to elect candidates of our own choosing, which is protected in the Voting Rights Act, as mentioned. So I'm here to emphasize that it is the job of the Commission to uphold those protections in the maps that you all draft for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commission, for letting us speak tonight. I'm Nancy Dombrowski, and I live in the Ahwatukee Foothills area with zip code 85044. I think of this area as a hidden gem of the Phoenix area. It is a very quiet, diverse area with small shops and businesses. I spend most of my time in Ahwatukee area for shopping, services, and attend church there as well. I respectfully ask the Commission to follow all 6 of the criteria laid out in the Arizona Constitution. I believe the previous Commission focused mainly on competitiveness, which has left the Ahwatukee Foothills area with very little commonality of interest. We have almost no commonality with Tempe, Mesa, Chandler, or Phoenix. These are all cities that have very different concerns than my area. The previous maps did not have equal proper population, with some districts having 12% more than others. CD9, our congressional district, is not compact, has no communities of interest, and includes way too many cities. I feel Ahwatukee Foothills has more commonalities with areas such as Maricopa and areas west of the I-10 and south. We have a rural suburb feeling, even though we are in Phoenix. The towns south of us also have small shops and businesses in their communities. We all have mountain areas that we want to keep environmentally in good shape. We are all concerned about maintaining the fast growth in our areas to keep the small town feeling and livability. Safety, good schools, and affordability are important to all of our areas. We share students with Maricopa and have a good relationship with them. I appreciate how difficult your job is, but I would ask that you consider putting Ahwatukee Foothills area west of the I-10 to the south and not in Phoenix, Tempe, Mesa, or Chandler. Thank you.
As Rhonda makes her way up here, the next speakers are Pam Peek, Gazelle Garcia, Lan Hung, Jennifer Chow.
Hi. Thank you, Madam Chair and the Commission for having this meeting. My name is Rhonda Smith, and I am a homeowner and have lived in Ahwatukee Foothills for 19 years. Ahwatukee Foothills holds a very special place in my heart because this is where I've raised my family and built close relationships with neighbors and friends in the area. My daughter went to school here, and she started in preschool, and now she's in college. I work, shop, frequent the local restaurants, and attend church in our small community. What I love most about Ahwatukee Foothills is the small town feeling that it gives, and I'd like to keep it that way. To accomplish this, I think Ahwatukee should be kept separate from Phoenix and Tempe. We don't have a lot in common with these cities. They're urban, we're suburban. They have high tech and large businesses. We have more family-friendly or family-owned businesses. I feel Ahwatukee has more in common with the city of Maricopa, especially with their students sharing our schools. Ahwatukee is a small suburb community, and it's not like city of Phoenix and Tempe in size or feel. I suggest the boundaries for Ahwatukee stay west of I-10, along the South Mountain, and continue south towards the city of Maricopa, where we have the most commonalities. In 2011, the Commission failed to take any of this into consideration and did not follow the Arizona Constitution. I respectfully ask the Commission to follow the criteria outlined in our state's Constitution to maintain equal population, community of interest, and fairness. Thank you, and God bless.
Hi, I'm Pamela Peek, and I'm a resident of Phoenix in the Ahwatukee area, zip code 85044. I'm short too. Okay. I am a current resident of Legislative District 18 and Congressional District 9. Thank you, Madam Chair, and the panel for allowing us this opportunity to voice our concerns. We feel that adhering to the 6 areas of the Constitution that have been mentioned are of the utmost importance when we're handling this redistricting process. I've lived in the area for 6 years and love the quaint small town feel of our community and shop locally to support all the small businesses. The high-tech and urban feel of Tempe, Phoenix, Mesa, and Chandler really doesn't match our concerns as a small suburb. This makes CD9 spread out with many commonalities of interest, without many commonalities of interest. I feel Ahwatukee has more in common with these areas like City of Maricopa, as well as areas west of the Interstate 10, south of South Mountain geographically, and we have a lot of students from the city of Maricopa that share our schools. So both of those areas blend well, and both areas also have a diverse population, including the Gila Reservation on our south border, which we highly respect. I appreciate the difficult task that you've undertaken, and I ask that you consider that Ahwatukee and Ahwatukee Foothills west of Interstate 10 south would be better suited with the city of Maricopa and its surrounding areas, not with Phoenix, Tempe, Mesa, or Chandler. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Hello, my name is Giselle Garcia, and I'm testifying on why the 2021 redistricting process
Can you
needs
take
to be
your mask
fair and
off?
transparent.
I can't hear you. Take your mask
Oh,
off.
sorry.
There you go.
Hello, my name is Giselle, and I'm testifying on why the 2021 redistricting process needs to be fair and transparent. I currently reside in LD 27 and Congressional District 27. How districts are drawn affects every political issue from the economy to healthcare to public education. When politicians or political interests manipulate maps for personal political gain, it prevents residents like me from having our voices heard on all these policies that affect us. Because of the timing of the census data and when the commission meets, unfortunately, the public has very limited time to view, understand, and comment on the proposed maps. The redistricting process already is an inherently confusing and complicated process for many community members. The need to ensure all members of our community understand and participate is vital. In order for our democracy to function, the public needs to have a voice in the process. Therefore, I'm asking this commission to commit to continue outreach in our communities, creating it accessible, and ensure you center our voices as you decide our political representation for the next 10 years. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to me today. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Lan Juan. I was raised here in Central Phoenix, Arizona, almost my entire life. I attended elementary school and high school here. I graduated from ASU with a business degree and a master in public administration from NAU. I worked in higher education for 17 years plus until I changed my career path. I've traveled many places and states, but I always come back here because this is my home base. I'm a mother of 3 now, and I want to make sure the new district lines reflect the shift in demographics in our state, so that my children see themselves fairly represented in the future. This leads me to point out that there has not been no significant outreach to communities of color for input. How effective are your efforts if not everyone is invited to the table? The Asian American population is the fastest growing population in this state, but we're often neglected and or ignored when it comes to making decisions that affect our lives. I would like to ask the commissioners to think about that as you draw the new congressional and legislative district lines. It's important that you engage in meaningful community outreach that brings in the Asian American community to your work. That means working with local community organizations, Asian media outlets, and ensuring that the materials you provide are accessible in multiple languages. Lastly, I ask that you create fair and competitive districts. They can ensure better representation for our communities and result in candidates that know our communities and can effectively advocate for us. So thank you for your time, and I wish you well in making your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we move to the next speaker, just there's a consistent comment or theme about our accessibility and outreach to minorities of communities of interest. We are interested in meeting with everybody. And if there is anybody that feels that they are not represented, reach out to us, irc.az.gov, and we will listen to anybody that feels they're not being heard, and we will meet with you. So with that, onward.
As Jennifer makes her way up here, I'm going to read the next 4 names. Nicole Morales, AJ KCIRDOGLU. I'm not even going to try that one. Nache Chavez, Patty O'Neill, and Brian Eckerly.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Chow. I'm the director for Arizona Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander for Equity, which was founded in 2019. We're a coalition of 9 AA and HPI organizations working together on issues that impact our communities. The communities include Chinese, Filipino, Korean, Indian, Japanese, Marshallese, Chukis, Samoan, Palauan, Native Hawaiian, Cambodian, Vietnamese, and Lao, and there's many more. In 2020, the coalition mobilized the AZNHI community to get counted in the census and get out the vote, which saw an increase in voter turnout by 46% from the 2016 elections. Outreach does make a difference. I'm a resident and an owner of a bakery in Tempe, and I'm a mother of a 1-year-old daughter. I have seen a rise in the Asian Pacific Islander businesses and residents in the East Valley and frequent the Mesa Asian District, which is in the Dobson Road and Main Street area, for their various Asian grocery stores and restaurants and stores. I'd like to note an observation. Yesterday, I attended the IRC public hearing in Tucson, and it was packed. I would say 200 to 300 people, but I only saw a handful of people of color in the meeting. It leads me to wonder, what are the outreach efforts being made to the communities of color pertaining to redistricting? The Asian Pacific Islander community is the fastest growing population in Arizona, and it's important to have our community members participate and understand the redistricting process to ensure their representation in the maps that will be impacting us for the next decade. The Commission has space to improve their public outreach. We ask that we take a more proactive approach in educating the public so that you are hearing from all of our communities in the state, especially communities of color. We ask that you do more outreach to community organizations who are already in the community trust and ties to the local communities. We ask that you provide materials in language and other than English, and that you reach out to the media outlets and communities. Thank you for your service.
I'm short as well. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Muy buenas noches, Madam Chair and Comité. My name is Nicole Morales. I am a resident of Legislative District 24 and former resident of Legislative District 19, where I grew up, where my parents, my tios, and my vecinos currently reside in. I am here today to bring their voices to this space. I will begin by pointing out how inaccessible this process has been for the community in Maribel and other minority communities across the state. Though I recognize spaces like this and also the Communities of Interest survey, I am far from home, just as many other speakers tonight. My first recommendation, and as a resident of Arizona, is for more spaces for our communities to have voices present, because we have a right to be represented. Secondly, as I look around, I am aware that I am not in my community, nor in a very inviting space, due to the lack of translation and language accessibility. This is a space where I'm unable to bring my mother or my father to be able to provide their public input, because they would have to use their native language. And I am unsure if there is translation right now at this moment for people to be able to provide their comments. Also, language accessibility for outreach for communities so they can understand the importance of their voice in this space. As well, working families in general, just being able to have accessibility to that information I think it was said earlier about just more outreach in order to ensure the importance of this space in just their native language. As we hope that you consider expanding hearings in our communities, I hope that also you consider expanding the deadline for Community of Interest survey. It does not make sense in general that you recognize that there is not enough input from Black communities and Latino communities and other minorities, and put a deadline to this survey as of now. Thank you very much for your time.
So I just, real quick, I'd like to go on record that we have provided translation for the Latino community.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and my neighbors who shown patience and grit this evening from East Valley. My name is Ajlan Kurdolu. You can call me AJ. And I'm a Chandler resident for 15 years, a family man, and a small business owner in the city as well. Chandler is where I built my life as a first-generation American. This city is where I live, where I work, and most importantly, where I serve my community. In every sense of the word, Chandler is my community of interest. Chandler, this city with its diverse population, with its strong economy based on different industries, and its big population, deserves to be a whole single legislative district. Currently, our city is divided between LD 18 and 17. Chandler has 6 state legislatures. They can call this city or part of it their constituency. But unfortunately, the legislature from LD 18 has 3 other cities that they have to take care of: Phoenix, Mesa, and Tempe. The ones from LD 17, they have to take care of 2 more communities, Gilbert and Soundings. And Chandler needs her own sets of legislature who can and will pay 100% of their time to this important city. This will also solve the odd issues like, for example, where I live, I have one set group of legislature. Where I work, in 5 minutes, I have a different set of legislatures. And most of the high-tech employees are in the same situation. They are home in one district, their work is in another. And another great point for you commissioners, mappers, Mark, for you, when you make Chandler one district, you will have a contiguous, compact district respecting city boundaries while being a competitive one. So I want to thank you for your hard work, allowing me to speak. Have a wonderful evening, and let's make Chandler a single district. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natasha Chavez. I work for the council as an organizer for the council. Sorry, public speaking makes me nervous. So I'll make it quick because we have 2 minutes. First, thank you for your time. My main priority is making sure that non-white voices, Black, Latino, Muslims, and just make sure that they're represented in the different districts, that we just continue to either expand or maintain the majority-minority districts we currently have. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Patty O'Neill. Yeah, I know I don't look Irish. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, IRC panel. I appreciate what you're doing. I live in North Scottsdale, where the 101 and Franklin Wright meet. My area, or better said, my community, is a mix of single-family homes, apartments, and businesses. Year-round, you can see families, young couples, and children enjoying many activities by walking paths in the beautiful parks that we have there. There is a pristine hiking trail a stone's throw away from my home. We also enjoy annual events like the auto auction, professional golfing events, horse shows. Unlike the rest of our legislative district, my community represents a well-balance of Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. This is exactly what the rest of my legislative district should look like. Unfortunately, our legislative district has a 20-point advantage for one party. I believe my small community, with a well-balance of diverse voters, is a snapshot of what all legislative districts should look like. I ask this committee to create a fair and competitive district reflective of that reflects my community. And with that, I would like to make a suggestion to the IRC with respect to LD 23. When looking at redrawing that district, look at keeping Scottsdale Unified School District in one LD. A simple modification of extending our district to the south and a bit to the east would loop an entire school district into one legislative district. And you will find that small modification would make LD 23 more competitive. Thank you.
Brian makes his way up here, the next speakers, Bonnie Jameson, Joyce Steiner, Tram Chu, Kate Saunders,
I'm a little bit taller. All right. Commission, thank you for hearing me tonight. My name is Brian Eckley, and I live in East Mesa. My cross streets are McDowell and Power. I'm married with 2 children. I work at the Phoenix International Airport. My oldest child works in Mesa at a local Albertsons and a bank right across the street. My youngest child attends Grand Canyon University, which is off of 17 in Camelback. Our family spends time going to the local movie theaters and restaurants. We also enjoy the local state parks for hiking and activities on the Salt River, which is about 15 minutes east of where we live. My wife and I love floating to Salt River all the time. I'm here today to talk a little bit about my community of interest. My community works in aviation, tech, retail, and small businesses across the city. Many people work in aviation because Boeing is a large employer in my community. As stated earlier, I work out of the Phoenix International Airport. I work there, but I don't really spend a lot of time there other than with work. We also have Mesa Gateway Airport, which is to the south. We use that a lot ourselves to get to our family up in Washington State. Falcon Field, which is 5 minutes from my home to the west, has been a base for firefighting helicopters and serves as a major flight instructing location for students from all over the community and the world. My family and I enjoy a wonderful restaurant that's located on Falcon Field, so we enjoy eating dinner and watching the airplanes take off and land, and also a great view of Red Mountain. We are a proud middle-income community that supports each other through family, churches, and other local resources. My community has a food truck Friday where members of the community gather to socialize and to get to know one another. We also gather in our local churches and schools. We also gather with other churches in my community. Our children are involved heavily in our church youth program, which is involved in outreach within my local community. My district is 5 and LD 25, and I am quite happy with those districts as they are drawn currently. Thank you for your time.
Bonnie Jameson, not here, Joyce Steiner,
Good evening. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad I have this opportunity. I am from Legislative District 12. It is a district that is not competitive. I have lived in that district for 9 years, and it's been very difficult not having a competitive district where I feel that there's a greater likelihood that I can have input into who gets selected. In general, I feel like we need to have districts that are more equal in population. I would like to see that there are more of these meetings in geographical areas of the county that have not had meetings. I also think that there needs to be a greater variety of communication. There are people, now I have a computer, but there are people who don't have computers or are not computer savvy. And so other ways of getting the word out would be helpful. Thank you.
Tram.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Tram Chu. My family and I'm the first generation of the Vietnamese refugee that we came to the United States since 1975 after Vietnam War. And I involved with my Vietnamese community on behalf of my Vietnamese community. I started in real estate. My background now is a full-time real estate broker, and I've been helping my Vietnamese community in town. And I'm here to represent my community because my background in real estate, I saw the Vietnamese community moving from another state come here, and
locally, I involved with a lot of charity, blind club, and I see my community, because the old generation like me and above, the language barrier, that's why you don't see them attend a lot of meeting and involved with the outside, just go to work and go home. So they come to me as a resort of information. So I involved with other community. They have like 18 to 19 different Asian American community in Arizona beside Vietnamese community. So it's very big community. And in Vietnamese community, we have 2 times of the year that we can meet together for the Chinese New Year and Half Moon celebration. That's how I got involved. I was in the in the community. So I hear anything. I went home and I talked to my community when I meet them. That's how they get the resort, and then they call me something that our real estate. So I'd be helpful. I'm here to see, because I recently I see the Asian community was divided into the 2 districts. So we're here to have our voice heard, because Asian Americans spend about over 6.1 billion a year, the purchase power. So we're here to make sure that you heard us, because you don't see us in meeting a lot. But we're here, we're listening. And our children, they born here, they educate, so they know what's going on. But for us, they just get the information from older generation. They feel comfortable with us. Yeah, thank you. And we're here to let you know that we're here, and we need some help. You provide us some information and some brochure.
Question. You said you were divided into 2 districts?
Yes.
Could you tell us what those are?
Actually, there's a Vietnamese community most concentrated in Chandler and Mesa. So we need more legislation, representing us. Right now, we don't have any minority people in our district. And I live in Glendale.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Submit a map. And if there's language barriers, that's only extra responsibility on you.
Yeah.
To be able to share the information and the data that we can use to
Yes.
represent the people that you're wanting.
I helped them in the census, survey and vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. I volunteer. I sat in the play with the table for a whole day and help them translate and guide them. And I feel helpful for my community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As Kate makes her way up here, the next 4 speakers, Daniel Ortega, Jay Chen, Javier, there you are, Javier Ramos, Annalise Ortiz.
Good evening. 3 hours, and we have yet to talk about LGBTQ people, so I'm going to do that. My name is Caitlin Saunders, and I live in downtown Phoenix in LD 24 in Congressional District 7. A little bit about me: I just recently graduated with a Master of Science from Arizona State University, and I currently work at Equality Arizona, which is the statewide LGBTQ advocacy organization. And I'm also a committed member of my community and of my LGBTQ community, my queer home. And we enjoy doing things together, like hiking at South Mountain, going to art shows and performances of our friends, sharing childcare resources, helping one another with rides to clinics and vaccine appointments, and helping put each other through school and getting groceries and resources to one another in times of need, like going through the pandemic. And so I'm here to uplift how urgently LGBTQ people should be considered a community of interest in this process, so that real efforts can be made to make sure that our communities where LGBTQ people are geographically connected are taken care of and accounted for. We have common policy concerns and needs, and we would benefit from being united in legislative and congressional districts. For some context and research, the Movement Advancement Project will show you that Arizona overall is really low on the equality score. And that means we have a lot of work to do
through policy to ensure that LGBTQ folks have the same rights, opportunities, and responsibilities as cisgendered and straight people in Arizona. A little bit of a broader scale context and some data points. We also share, unfortunately, unique circumstances of violence and discrimination and socioeconomic burdens. More than 1 in 3 LGBTQ Americans have faced discrimination in the past year, and that's 3 in 5 are transgender Americans have faced discrimination. And that discrimination adversely affects our mental health, economic, and well-being. Transgender individuals face unique obstacles for accessing healthcare. And overall, LGBTQ Americans, especially Black LGBTQ Americans and other people of color who are queer and Indigenous people who are queer, have experienced significant mental health issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the point is this: under these conditions, which are not going away and that continue to impact our lives, alongside limited protections, we find safety in our networks, in our neighborhoods. And so it's vital that our neighborhoods, and what we call our gayborhoods often, like the Melrose District in downtown Phoenix is one of them. And this is statewide because us queer folks, we're everywhere. And so also 4th Avenue in Tucson, these are the areas where we come together, and that please do not cut those areas into multiple districts, which will minimize our political power. So finally, to help us live full and healthy lives, please consider LGBTQ people a community of interest in this redistricting process.
Okay, you know, I have a question, and this is fascinating. How is it that you break this down into contiguous, compact, geographic areas of equal population, given that it transcends all of our entire state population? And I don't mean to ask this right now, you can respond, but as a community of interest, how we translate this into the constitutional criteria. That's valuable information.
Definitely, and I appreciate that point of clarification. We're going to be submitting more data points through our responses throughout tomorrow, and to help identify some of those areas like the Melrose District, like 4th Avenue in Tucson, and help space that out of where we are in geographic pockets. Because even though you can't account for us, you know, we're everywhere.
But if you make your pockets small and contiguous multiple times, at least that'll give us some insight.
Great. Yep. We will be submitting that information. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Daniel Ortega? No Daniel Ortega? Jay Chin?
Good evening, Madam Chair and the Commission. My name is Jay Chen, and I'm Korean community leader and a business owner here in Mesa since the year 2000. Since the year 2000, I've been living in Arizona. I changed too much. You know, Asian population been increased. And I've been, you know, as a Korean, it's pretty hard for the Korean people come to the state of Arizona and they're taking driver license or whatever like this. So I initiate reciprocal driver license agreement between the state of Arizona and South Korea year 2017. And now I'm lobbying to bring Samsung to Arizona. And once it happens, then we will have direct flight between Phoenix to Asia. As you see this map along the Dobson Road, you see so many Asian businesses popping up. And so the Dobson Road is really dividing Chandler East and West. A lot of people don't like it, you know, as a city of Chandler divide as a two, East and West, but it's inevitable to me. So I'd like to propose the district from, well, anyway, most Asian people and Korean people lives in Mesa and the Chandler and Gilbert. So the Dobson Road is kind of an Asian business corridor and is the starting point. As we get more Asian business, like if We don't know yet, but something comes. We already got TSMC. So the Asian people like to shop along the Dobson Road, I'm pretty sure. So I'd like to propose to the commission for the future Asian congressional district to the east of Dobson and if possible, state legislative district. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Independent Redistricting Commission. My name is Javier Ramos. I was born and raised here in Cashin, Arizona. I want to talk about the Latino community of interest in Congressional District 5. I live in Queen Creek, and that's my Congressional District 5. I want to talk about the problem with Congressional District 5 and the Latino community and the solutions as I see it. The community of interest I belong to in Queen Creek, we have 15.8% Hispanic population. Gilbert is 17.1% Hispanic population. Chandler is 20.8% Hispanic population, and Mesa is 27.7% population. Congressional District 5 has both Gilbert and Queen Creek as one unit, one city in Congressional District 5. The current Congressional District 5 divides Mesa and Chandler down the Hispanic line. In Mesa, the dividing line is Stapley. For example, Stapley in Congressional District 5, Reed Park is 67% Hispanic. Lynn Ray neighborhood is 65% Hispanic. Summer Place Village in Congressional District 5 is 29% Hispanic. North Center Street is 56% Hispanic. Stapley Greens is 36% Hispanic. That's in Congressional District 5. Stapley divides it up. West of that, in Congressional District 9, you have Community Fiesta, 73% Hispanic. Escobedo Historic District is 53% Hispanic. Nuestra Neighborhood is 79% as Hispanic. Power Estates, 63% Hispanic. Fiesta Park, 54% Hispanic. Can Do, 70% Hispanic. The same thing happens in Chandler, as you heard earlier. It's divided down, basically McQueen divides up the Hispanic population in two. You have basically, or the Independent Redistricting Committee back in 2010 has basically diluted the Hispanic vote in Congressional District 5. My solution to this is you can move Congressional District 5 to the west to 101, which would incorporate what you heard today, all of Chandler and all of Mesa and all of Gilbert and Queen Creek. You could also move, some people have said that they want to move Apache Junction to the Congressional District 5. That is a fallacy. Apache Junction is in Pinal County. You should move Ellsworth as the dividing line, and that would give you a contiguous square with the Hispanic population not being diluted. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Annalise Ortiz. I spoke before you all at the Phoenix Convention Center a few weeks ago, so I'll keep this very short. I want to let you know that I echo what everybody said about there needing to be more meetings in the Latino community, specifically in South Phoenix, Laveen, and Maryvale. Especially in South Phoenix, this is an area with a very large Black population as well. I also understand the importance of being able to address the commission in person. I know that people can go online, but along with the barriers to online access, it is also so much more powerful for you to be seeing my face and hearing my voice. And I know there are so many folks in these areas of South Phoenix, Laveen, and Maryvale who need to share their stories with you. So I ask you to please consider that. Along with that, I understand that there's Spanish interpretation, as you said, but at the last meeting, somebody came up and said in English, does anyone need Spanish translations? And that message should have been in Spanish. And at this meeting, I did not hear an announcement at all. So what real language justice looks like is those announcements being made in the proper language at the top of the meeting, perhaps even a screen with the translations of what I'm saying. So if there were monolingual speakers in the audience, they could see in real time what I'm saying. So I would just appreciate that, and I know other folks would too. Thank you for the hard work you've been doing. Appreciate it.
Final four speakers, commissioners. Kevin Welch,
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Walsh. I appreciate you for allowing me to speak tonight. I have 2 kids in the Kyrene School District. I'm also the president of the Kyrene School Board. I'm speaking here in my individual capacity. The Kyrene School District has 26 schools, nearly 16,000 students. Every single one of those schools is an LD18. We pick up South Tempe, West Chandler, Ahwatukee, including Ahwatukee Foothills. But what unites us is that school community. And I can tell you that it's so important to keep the Kyrene School District community together as a community of interest. These last 18 months have demonstrated more than ever how important it is for our elected officials to advocate for our public school districts, especially knowing the needs of their local school districts. Funding, safety, COVID, all of these things our elected officials know because they represent all 26 schools of the Kyrene School District. They know our needs and they advocate for us. If you break up the Kyrene Community School District, you not only break up the community of interest, but you undermine the voice of that school community and its families. So I implore you to please keep the Kyrene School District together as a community of interest. Thank you for your time.
Chair and members, my name is Charles Lucking. I'm a first-generation Arizonan and a citizen of LD28. My community of interest lies east of 24th Street, north of Campbell. We're a tight neighborhood, ethnically, culturally, and economically diverse. Our kids play in the same parks and go to the same schools. I only have one thing I'd like to discuss, and it's something that's been mentioned before, but in the title of Proposition 106 that was passed by the people of Arizona, which created this commission, the entire text of the title mentions exactly one of your criteria that you're mandated to consider. Can you guess which one it is? Fortunately, it's right here in our agenda tonight. I'll read it. Creating an independent commission of balanced appointments to oversee the mapping of fair and competitive congressional and legislative districts. That's it, just the one criteria, competitive. Does that seem like it should carry the least weight? I don't think so either. The only other thing I'd like to say is that I'd also like to echo and voice my strong support for proactive outreach by the IRC to communities of color and for extending the deadline for input. Thank you so much for your difficult service to our beautiful state and for adhering to your mandate by the people of Arizona. Thank you.
Last 2. Max White.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Max White. I currently live in LD 19, Congressional District 3. As I come to you this evening, I'm remiss to say that there are only 19 other folks in Arizona who would be able to stand before you and say I'm equally as qualified, knowing that the Democratic Party did consider me as a appointee for Maricopa County. So I'm remiss that Commissioner Lerner isn't here with us. This is her county, and this is where we are. So taking that into consideration, I am speaking of the community of interest in the LD19 area. What do we have in common? We have families, we have faith, we have fitness, and we have fun. It's like the Wild Wild West out there. I live and have owned a home in the Hadley precinct for 13 years. I retired from Bank of America after 20 years of service. I'm currently a homemaker, a charter member of the Arizona West Valley Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated that serves Black women in Avondale, Buckeye, El Mirage, Glendale, Goodyear, Litchfield Park, Laveen, Maryvale, New River, Peoria, Surprise, Tellison. And we also have sisters in Tempe, Tucson, and Phoenix. I drink Starbucks, and I'm not here speaking on behalf of any of the brands or organizations that I'm affiliated with. I'm here speaking out on behalf of what you just asked for, somebody from my community who would come and let you know where we think our boundaries are. So I'm sorry if there's a bit of a shake in my voice, but we as Black women in America, we feel hunted. And I grieve today severely with all of my brothers and sisters from B of A, because having spent my entire adult career there and led in an executive role, I'm just brokenhearted. Black women are not cared for. And so I have to think about what's most important to me. Why did I retire? My kids. Well, my kids attend school in the Littleton Elementary School District, as well as Tullison Union High School. But in Avondale, we have the beauty of having access to the Western Maricopa Education Center, Litchfield Elementary School District, Pendergrass Elementary School District, as well as Avondale Elementary School District. When we think of what we want our community to look like, I asked the people in my LD, I said, hey guys, this is a really neat place to live. We like our boundaries. But when we think about it, we want the city of Avondale to be kept whole, close to Goodyear, Litchfield Park, Tullison, West Phoenix. We want to be in the same congressional district, Western Maricopa. Yeah, we don't mind stretching all the way down to Yuma, some of La Paz, some of Pima, because we're close to North Sonora in Mexico, and possibly some of Pinal. If you'd like to think about the actual boundaries, well, the geographic boundaries are south on I-10 from 51st Avenue, now 202, north to Thomas Road, possibly to Camelback where it makes sense. The south border would be along the 202 going down to Pecos Road, west to Bullard, or go as far as 303. Include the entire Australia Mountain Park region and make sure that we keep our native lands together and engage folks as necessary with bridge lines, making sure that you use social media, and also not having events where people who are not privileged can attend during work hours. We're working people. Thank you.
If you feel that your community is not being heard, please reach out to our commission at our website and make a request for additional hearings. Please. Thank you.
We would like to know what you think is out there. I did sit on the neighborhood and family. So we would encourage you to come that way. And I'll close my piece. Thank you.
Please extend that invitation to our staff, and we will absolutely consider all of those invitations. Thank you.
We have two more speakers, Ari Bradshaw and Edgar Archola.
Hello, hola, Iñate, Commission, and fellow Arizonans. First, we ought to add the Navajo language to all redistricting documents in addition to English and Spanish. My district is a quarter Navajo, and they need to be respected. I'm Ari Daniel Bradshaw. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, working at City Hall of Phoenix Sister Cities for 2 years, and now currently live between Yavapai and Maricopa counties in both the village of Oak Creek and Phoenix, LD6. I graduated from Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, and moved back to Phoenix, where I own 2 companies that I built from scratch and work with contractors and clients from all across the state. I grew up with a mother on welfare and a dead father in this state. My late father's family has been in Arizona for generations, and my mother immigrated from the Middle East when she was 10 years old. I'm 23, and I love my state. I'm sure you do too. None of us want to see the things that have made our state so great fade away, nor do we want our national representation to reflect the values of non-Arizonans or special interests. For the sake of this speech, I will focus on the 1st Congressional District primarily, with one switch in the 3rd and 4th. The change I would like to bring to your attention first is on behalf of my friend Jeremy Abdo, who could not be here today due to a family emergency, from Globe. It is beyond rationality as to why Sutton's Summit Precinct, including the town of Top of the World, is not included with its micropolitan area of Globe. Instead, its voters are included in the 4th Congressional District, whose nearest population center is either 20 miles away in Queen Valley or 25 miles away in Gold Canyon, a place that has far more in common with the Phoenix suburbs than with Arizona's 1st. Furthermore, I reckon that the Commission ought to recognize that North Canyon Precinct, north of the Havasupai Nation and consisting of Colorado City, has much more in common with the nearby Fredonia Precinct than with the 4th in its focus on rural Maricopan and eastern Arizonan issues. The people of Colorado City have far more in common with the great citizens of Clifton and Saffron than they do with those in beautiful Prescott or rural Maricopa. We have an obligation and a duty to treat the people of North Canyon with respect. I'll take an aside from the 1st note that Yuma's interests share about as much in common with the 4th as they do the 3rd. We ought to look at precincts that should be given to the 4th District from the 3rd, while the 4th gives Kingman or Payson to the 1st in order to balance the population. From Tonto Basin to PS West in the Payson area, by the way, precinct-wise. In Payson's case, one must find it absurd as to why the micropolitan area is not included in the same district as its sister micropolitan areas of Show Low and Globe in order to compensate for the... I have a lot more in before y'all. You guys have it in there. That's why I gave you that. Thank you so much. I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Final
Thank you so much, guys, for your patience and your diligence in listening to everybody's input. So my name's Edgar Ochoa. I'm a native Arizonan, specifically a lifelong resident of the Phoenix metro area. I just come to echo the remarks of so many already about the idea of preserving and perhaps giving greater power to minority-majority districts and making sure that that fairness really shows the reflection of our state and its diversity in our actual electorate. As a child growing up here, it always seemed like a pipe dream where we always might have had some cultural power, but never really political power, and never really seeing people that were going to reflect me or look like me in the past. Now, thankfully, that's been changing more and more as our power has been increasing, and I just want to make sure that you guys take that into account when making those when redistricting to make sure that, again, our electorate starts to reflect what the entire population looks like. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for still being here. We've had a robust discussion. We're pushing 4 hours. Thank you very much. As we've mentioned numerous times, there are some tools on our website. We believe they're easy to use. We will make sure that the Latino and other languages, hopefully we'll find a way to use them. If you cannot, please email our commission and we will work towards correcting that for you. And please go make maps, have your friends make maps, submit them, and thank you for your time. Take care. Now we adjourn the meeting. There we go.
For the record, we're adjourned.
For the record.